Chapter 732. Even Su Yin was taken aback. How could this happen? The mark between Zhu Tian's eyebrows was like the mark of supreme star domain. But now, the mark on Su Yan's forehead could restrain the Zhu Tian mark and even devour the mysterious substance within it. This was a little terrifying. This was plundering, and a mysterious substance was being devoured by Su Yan's earth mark. The mark on Su Yan's forehead was extremely special. Back when he was comprehending the Tao on the immortal planet, Su Yin obtained the essence of the immortal planet through time and space, manifesting an unreal mark. After all, the immortal planet no longer existed. The strongest trial in the fifth stage allowed Su Yin to return to an extremely ancient era. From there, he obtained the great Tao essence of the immortal planet and condensed it into an imprint. When Earth awakened, the Earth mark and the immortal planet mark fused, giving birth to a new great Tao crystal, a new Tao mark. But this blurry Tao mark actually devoured the Zhu Tian mark. This was heaven-defying. This was the Zhu Tian mark, the strongest mark of the ancestral hall. It was also the symbol of their glory and glory. But now, it was being devoured by the Earth mark. Zhu Tian roared at the sky. His eyes were filled with fear. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? Why was the Zhu Tian mark being devoured? What's going on? Zhu Yanghua and the others' expressions changed. They couldn't see the specific scene, nor could they see Su Yan's mark devouring the Zhu Tian mark. They only saw the two marks colliding. However, Zhu Tian's miserable shriek caused their expressions to fluctuate. Just what had happened? Could it be that Su Yin still had a trump card? Boom! Suddenly, the mark on Su Yan's forehead blazed brightly. Its light overflowed into the sky, collapsing the clouds in all directions and piercing through the heavens. It was originally a little blurry, but after devouring the power of the Zhu Tian mark, it became extremely bright. It was extremely frightening, as if 100,000 true dragons were drilling out. The imprint became stronger, as though it had eaten a great tonic. Su Yin was pleasantly surprised. The imprint could actually grow and even become stronger. Although he had yet to unearth the secret of the imprint, it could forcefully suppress the ancestral heaven imprint. The current ancestral heaven mark was dim, and while it still possessed a certain amount of power, it was significantly weaker than before. It was equivalent to having his cultivation weakened. How can this be? Why is the ancestral heaven imprint so weak? Zhu Yanghua and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. In fact, they had felt that the ancestral heaven mark was extremely weak when it first erupted. One must know that such a mark could threaten the life of an all-heaven sovereign. It could be said to be the strongest imprint. Even the imprint of the strongest life ancient star would be suppressed by the ancestral heaven imprint. This was also why the ancestral heavens of the ancestral hall were able to look down on the past, present, and future and become the biggest winner in every contest in the primal chaos ruins. But now, the ancestral heaven imprint was even weaker, which made their faces turn ashen. Could it be that Su Yin had turned the tables on them? Buzz! Su Yan's forehead glowed resplendently. He could feel the tyrannical power of the imprint. Once it was activated, it would be incredible. However, this kind of energy was relatively vague and mysterious. As a result, Su Yin had yet to completely grasp it. However, after breaking the ancestral heaven imprint, Su Yin laughed loudly. He looked heroic. Although his battle body was stained with blood, his might was even more turbulent. The vast sea was shaken by his laughter, and terrifying waves surged. Su Yin charged forward madly under the shocked gazes of all around. His long black hair danced in the wind, and his every move exuded a terrifying destructive power that suppressed everything in front of him. I'm invincible. Zhu Tian still had that invincible prestige of his generation. In fact, his injuries weren't that great. It was just that the ancestral heaven imprint had weakened. Facing Su Yin, who was charging at him, Zhu Tian looked up to the sky and roared. He was like a supreme demonic god standing upright in the darkness, releasing the power of the heavens that could destroy all living things. His fist was so vast that it was as if the heavens of the universe were being pushed by Zhu Tian. Kill! Zhu Tian roared. The ancestral blood in his body burned, and his battle strength soared to the strongest domain. Come and accept your death. Su Yin broke through the darkness. The light shooting out from his cold eyes was like the light of purgatory that swept out from hell. His body stuck close to the sea. Wherever he passed, demons would dance wildly and radiance would shine for tens of thousands of feet. At this moment, Su Yin was too wild. His moves were grand, and his aura engulfed everything within 100,000 miles. He could be considered an invincible overlord of the present age. His roar shattered the darkness, and his battle blood began to boil. Boom! When Su Yin really charged over, the darkness exploded. This was a vast, golden domain, a world of the great Tao that belonged to Su Yin. It descended from the sky, suppressing the darkness and crushing the dark sky. Great stars in the universe appeared behind Su Yan's back. He was valiant and invincible. The Big Dipper fist erupted as if he was swinging a prehistoric beast. It completely exploded the darkness and shattered the sky. This fist shattered Zhu Tian's power and smashed half of his body. If it wasn't for his powerful physique, he would have exploded. I'm undefeatable. Zhu Tian coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. His hair danced in the wind, and his heart was filled with fury. He was facing Su Yin, who exuded a suffocating pressure. The latter was like a peerless god of war, exuding an invincible belief. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a bone-piercing killing intent filled the starry skies. The moment it descended upon Earth, it almost pierced through the souls of Xia Zhe and the others. Shameless, Lei Lao and the others roared angrily. That was because Zhu Yanghua had secretly taken action. He had brought out a secret treasure refined by the Divine King. A terrifying ancient bell descended from the sky and charged towards Su Yin. The sound of the bell was so loud that the entire sea region collapsed. Doubtlessly, this ancient bell was extremely powerful. It was filled with a murderous aura as it rushed towards the battlefield and towards Su Yin. In a short time, the powerful aura emitted by Su Yan's body was heavily suppressed. This ancient bell was extremely abnormal. Su Yin felt as if he would be smashed in a meat paste by it. This made him furious. The Divine King was interfering with the battlefield. Kill! Su Yin let out a loud roar, and the clothes all over his body were torn apart, revealing his robust body. His body was surging with blood essence. This was the burning of the divine furnace of a universe that could not be sealed. The domain of the great path that he had evolved shrank and gathered inside Su Yan's body. Boom! Su Yin brandished his fist and smashed down with boundless vigor. How tyrannical was this? The Divine King had interfered with the battle, but Su Yin had raised his fist and smashed down. The dragon fought in the wilderness. Su Yan's aura was like a rainbow as his fist collided with the ancient bell. The sound of the bell reverberated throughout the starry skies. The ancient bell was deformed by Su Yan's strike, and even a part of its body had collapsed. The scalp of the entire Kunkang region went numb. Although he was the Divine King, this ancient bell was forged from primal chaos treasures and refined by the Divine King. Yet Su Yin had actually deformed the ancient bell. Su Yan's physique was too tyrannical. It was like an immortal cauldron or a divine furnace. It burned with a torrential light and devoured the entire region. It was boundlessly terrifying. However, Su Yin had also suffered a heavy blow. His entire fist was drenched in blood. Half of his body was trembling violently as blood gushed out from his pores. His eyes emitted a bone-chilling aura. He was like a demonic god about to emerge from the abyss and attack the Divine King in the starry skies. How bold! Did you eat the guts of a true immortal? Hurry up and attack. Zhu Yanghua was furious. Su Yin had actually developed the courage to attack the Divine King. One had to admit that he was too courageous. What made Zhu Yanghua furious was that Zhu Tian didn't attack Su Yin while Su Yin was suffering from the Iron Blood shock. However, Zhu Tian also let out a miserable cry. His left leg had almost exploded. A giant panda with a ferocious aura suddenly crossed the battlefield. It used the banners of demons to conceal its aura and attacked at the critical moment. Its bite force was too astonishing and almost crushed Zhu Tian's left leg. Bang! Zhu Tian furiously attacked the Tai Bao Kai. However, the Tai Bao Cai's skin was thick and tough. It was also wearing the Divine King's armor, so it didn't suffer any substantial damage. Its teeth were dripping with Zhu Tian's blood as it raised its large round head and roared at the starry skies. Sneak attack? Try sneak attacking me again. You vile beast! Zhu Yan's expression was incomparably gloomy. Letting Zhu Tian fight Su Yin was an extremely wrong decision. Roar! A loud roar exploded. It came from Zhu Tian's furious roar. He felt humiliated. The Divine King had attacked Su Yin while he was fighting Su Yin. This was also a humiliation to the great Zhu Tian. Is he going to fight with his life on the line? Kuan Tianyu and the others opened their eyes wide as they saw Zhu Tian enter a state of fighting with his life on the line. He brought out all his trump cards and penetrated his frontal bone. This caused the dim Zhu Tian imprint to become resplendent and overflow with energy that could suppress a great region. Boom! Zhu Tian seemed to have transformed into a god. At this moment, he was boundlessly powerful and his aura soared into the sea of stars. He was like the reincarnation of the ancient Divine King, looking down on the world. Su Yin, you're indeed powerful, but my physical body hasn't been perfected, Zhu Tian said coldly. He had withstood the primal chaos refinement, but he hadn't consumed the little Divine King pill. That day was Zhu Tian's most glorious era. According to the Ancestral Hall, Zhu Tian hadn't reached the age where he could come into being. But it's not like I don't have any other methods to kill you. Everything can end now. Zhu Tian's frontal bone burned with terrifying radiance. At the moment he erupted with his most powerful attack, a corner of a majestic continent appeared. It was like a supreme imprint that suppressed the world, filled with an unparalleled aura that could suppress the entire universe. Hand over your life. An astonishing aura was released, and Zhu Tian turned into a majestic and vast immortal seal. The terrifying pressure was enough to make those of the same generation tremble and submit under Zhu Tian's feet. It was like the most powerful divine ability that had been lost in history had appeared. You're right. It can indeed end now. Su Yin was like a giant god piercing through the abyss. He raised his fist and punched the sky, his might shaking the vast starry skies. Suddenly, some people saw a terrifying figure appear behind Su Yin. The aura it emitted was suffocating and the great Tao was scattered. The primordial energy of all things surged out. Under the influence of this fist, the world was about to return to its primordial state and return to primal chaos. Chapter 733. The sea shook and the sun, moon, and stars were on the verge of falling. 2 layers of resplendent light soared from earth, piercing through the firmament and shattering the stars. Divine pressure covered the world. The entire solar system lost its luster under this radiance. Even the major characters of the Kuan family and ancestral heaven who were watching from the solar system were agitated. That was because they all saw ancestral heaven transform into an immortal seal. It was extremely majestic and emitted a source of power that could suppress the world. Everything in the universe lost their luster under this ability and secret technique because everything was suppressed. It was as though the strongest ability in history was blooming and burning, emitting stifling energy fluctuations. What kind of secret technique is this? How can it be so terrifying? It's simply unimaginable. Is the victor going to be decided? I saw Zhu Tian risking his life, erupting with his strongest power. Is this secret art the strongest divine ability of the Ancestral Hall? This secret skill is too frightening. I've seen secret skills of heavens before, but I feel that this secret skill is even more frightening than secret skills of heavens. I wonder if it's some kind of lost secret skill of inheritance from prehistoric times. Many old gods gathered at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy to discuss and communicate. Their faces all turned pale because they could vaguely see a corner of the majestic seal through the images projected by the space-time secret treasure. However, this wasn't something that could be projected through the space-time secret treasure. Kill. With a loud roar, Zhu Tian unleashed his strongest attack to kill his enemy. It was equivalent to giving up everything. All the energy in his body was concentrated on the immortal seal. It was filled with an endless energy storm that suppressed the world. Kill. Murderous cries also erupted at the same time. An equally terrifying and astonishing aura soared from the sea. This was the power of the initial fist. Su Yin had obtained the initial fist when he evolved his inner Tao and verified his Tao with the initial sutra. This fist technique had varying strengths and weaknesses, and it all depended on one's own strength. Zhu Tian will be victorious. Look down on everything. Many old experts from the ancestral hall roared. Their eyes were filled with longing and anticipation as they looked forward to Zhu Tian killing Su Yin. If Zhu Tian were to win this battle, he would become even stronger in the future. This was because Zhu Tian would be able to find his own shortcomings through this battle. He already has his trump card. Is there any suspense? Zhu Yongbua and the others were very quiet, but their breathing was also quite heavy. They had seriously underestimated Su Yin. They didn't expect him to quietly grow to such a level. He could be considered one of the strongest geniuses. Rumble. Under the starry sky, the two figures clashed. In that instant, Su Yin let out a long howl in the face of this oppression. He raised his fist and punched out, as if he wanted to break through the entire Golden Age. His fist aura emitted a terrifying power that could cause the Great Tao to retreat, change the structure of the universe, and return the world to its origin. This was the profound meaning of the initial fist. Once it erupted, any Great Tao would have to retreat. The boundless fist art of the divine god of battle attacked, penetrating the suppression of the deathless immortal seal and slamming into it. However, the immortal seal was sufficiently frightening. The initial fist had only penetrated it for a short while. The shocking strength of the immortal seal pressed down on Su Yan's flesh shell at lightning speed. Roar! Su Yan let out a wild roar. He extended his limbs, and his body was like an immortal cauldron. He was like a giant carrying a golden age. He was equally domineering and invincible. His body spewed out a bloody mist, but he was still undefeated. Bam! Instead, the immortal seal was riddled with holes and shattered by Su Yan's punch. His punch seemed to split open the sky and the earth. It evolved a new order of the universe. The immortal seal trembled and began to shatter. No! Zhu Yongbua and the others screamed in fear. When they saw Su Yin being heavily injured and about to be crushed into a bloody mist, they only felt a brief moment of excitement before it was replaced by fear. The immortal seal had been shattered. They could vaguely see Zhu Tian's figure exploding under Su Yan's fist. What was this? Zhu Tian had exploded. Su Yan's punch had blasted Zhu Tian into a bloody light that drifted between heaven and earth. It even rushed into the starry sky. The corners of Zhu Yongbua and the others' eyes turned purple. They smelled a familiar aura. It was Zhu Tian's bloody light drifting through the starry sky, emitting a tragic aura. This was the tragic end of being destroyed in both body and soul, and being blasted into ashes. He was Zhu Tian of the Ancestral Hall, the strongest young Ingjia of the Ancestral Hall. The contest in the primal chaos ruins hadn't even begun, yet Zhu Tian had been killed. Moreover, he had been blasted to death. Bastard! The experts of the Ancestral Hall roared. They couldn't let go of the anger in their hearts. They simply couldn't understand why such a ridiculous thing had happened. Unbelievable! The experts at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy were trembling. Zhu Tian had been killed. They had never imagined such an outcome. It was simply too ridiculous. They knew very well what kind of ending Zhu Tian's death was and what kind of terrifying storm it would cause. Once this day arrived, the primal chaos ruins would experience a great earthquake. It also represented the rise of a resplendent star in the universe. Zhu Tian is dead. Tensor and the others were dumbfounded. Their faces were stiff, and their breathing was particularly rapid. Especially the Grand Elder of Hokuto. His whole body was trembling. Zhu Tian had been killed. Some people felt that they were dreaming. Zhu Tian was enough to represent a legend and glory. The fall of such a character was unbelievable. How much influence would it have? How is this possible? How could Zhu Tian have fallen? Kuan Tianyu and the others were dumbfounded. Such an outcome made them shiver. What kind of monster had walked out of the burial realm? Even Zhu Tian could be killed. Didn't this mean that their race had given birth to a heavenly supremacy? Boom! From this moment onwards, the entire solar system violently fluctuated. Everyone felt that the solar system had exploded. Boundless flames of fury were born as bone-chilling killing intent swept through the area. Everyone from the ancestral hall released a heart-wrenching fury. It was a pain and hatred that could shatter the earth, tear it into pieces, and chop Su Yin into mincemeat. Furious roars filled the solar system. If it wasn't for the shocking situation here, the solar system would have long ceased to exist. The deity king let out a furious roar, and the entire starry sky trembled along with it. Endless murderous aura poured down, and it was countless times grander than the ocean. It filled the starry sky, and millions of stars were on the verge of falling. Rumble! That was a boundless power that surged towards the earth. It was an aura that could destroy a star field. However, no matter how strong they were, the killing intent came to an abrupt halt when it covered the earth. Earth was as calm as ever. This blue planet emitted the light of life and was suffused with auspicious clouds and purple chi. It was as if it didn't exist in this world. As such, no matter how violently the Ancestral Hall experts surged, they couldn't threaten the earth. Bastard! The divine king roared at the sky. His face and neck were red with anger. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't threaten the earth. They couldn't tear apart the order and structure of the universe. Then, if they forced their way to the earth, they would definitely be suppressed by the progenitor Great Tao, who would dare to go down and accept their death. Even Zhu Tian was killed. Even if the divine king was suppressed to the Great Tao realm, he wouldn't dare to compete with Su Yin. The god of war is invincible. The god of war is invincible. Shrouded in destructive and furious divine power, the Huaxia alliance let out earth-shattering cries. This was the power condensed by the group of races, and it reverberated in the solar system that was on the verge of destruction. Under everyone's gaze, Su Yin stood between heaven and earth. His long black hair draped over his shoulders. His battle body was stained with blood, but it was filled with a domineering aura. He was like a peerless overlord with his back facing all living beings. Although Su Yin was also injured and suffered serious injuries, he was still alive. As he breathed, the boundless essence energy drifted over the sea and penetrated Su Yan's battle body. Now that Su Yin was the Earth's supreme being, he could easily trigger an immeasurable amount of essence energy. Under the nourishment of this kind of essence energy, Su Yan's recovery was not fast because his losses were too great. The divine power he needed was too exuberant. He was like a divine power that devoured the source of the earth and absorbed the essence of the sun, moon, and stars in the sky. He was like a condensed universe that began to grow and decline. Who else wants to come down and fight? Su Yan's domineering aura was overwhelming. His messy hair danced in the wind. What was there to be afraid of? Su Yin was satisfied with his sudden death today. He had killed to his heart's content. He looked disdainfully at the starry sky, filled with killing intent to slaughter all living beings. Bathed in Zhu Tian's blood, he burst out with an astonishing battle intent and shouted at them. Who wants to come down and fight? The people of the Ancestral Hall and the Kuan family roared furiously. This kind of humiliation made their hearts tremble. Their hearts were filled with humiliation. Zhu Tian's miserable defeat made them really not know who to send to compete with Su Yin. This was an embarrassing and humiliating result. Nobody dared to stand up and compete with him. The god of war is invincible. The god of war is invincible. The god of war is invincible. The Huaxia Alliance's mighty cries shook the clouds. At this moment, they were fearless and let go of everything. This was the spirit of the Huaxia people. The entire starry sky was silent. Everyone glared at the earth. The divine king's hands were trembling, but there was a sense of powerlessness and humiliation in his heart. This was something they had never experienced before. What will come in the end. At this critical juncture, Su Yin was keenly aware that the pattern of the solar system suddenly revealed a majestic aura. Boom! A dull sound exploded just like that. It was as if an immortal furnace had disintegrated. Billowing essence blood rushed out, emitting waves that made gods and demons tremble. The sea of stars trembled, and the sun and moon fell silent. It suppressed the world. The pattern of the galaxy was ruthlessly suppressed. The aura of the Almighty was released and became more and more overbearing. In the end, his essence blood flooded the entire galaxy and even continued to expand into the surrounding starry sky. Chapter 734. A terrifying blood essence storm was born, drowning the entire Milky Way galaxy. This was red essence blood, and it seeped out from his pores and strands. Every strand was larger than a burning divine furnace. When the scarlet divine light gathered together, the might was unimaginable. The vast divine might filled the Milky Way galaxy, suppressing the operating laws of the Milky Way galaxy. The suppressed expert also broke free. Boom! The sky trembled and the sea of stars swayed. That figure stood up. He was boundlessly huge, looking down on all life with his divine might. Powerful expert, at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, some heavenly deities trembled. Then, they were all sent flying by the surging aura of the Milky Way galaxy. They couldn't withstand the blood essence storm released by the powerful expert. The heavenly deities were all coughing out blood. They were overwhelmed with shock and shouted uncontrollably, "I can feel the fury of a powerful expert. He wants to destroy a star field and slaughter a race. It's the ancestral hall's powerful expert. He broke through the domain and is about to arrive at that ancient star. The buried region's race is finished. Even the wrath of a divine king could cause millions of corpses to fall, let alone a supreme being of a generation." He erupted with heaven-reaching essence blood fluctuations. His figure was incomparably terrifying. This was precisely an unmatched demon lord. He towered between heaven and earth. The aura he exuded, making even heavenly deities unable to breathe. "He's here." Bamboo Moon clenched her slender hands. The powerful expert was finally breaking free. He broke through the space of the Milky Way galaxy's laws and continued to recover. He was becoming more and more majestic and vast. He was erupting with unrivaled battle prowess, swallowing the entire star field. How terrifying was this? The distant starry sky trembled. Scarlet blood essence surged from the source like millions of true dragons coming out of the cage. It surged between heaven and earth, covering the sky and the entire Milky Way galaxy. The power of a powerful expert was unimaginable. Moreover, the powerful expert was getting stronger. His aura was becoming more and more powerful. He was the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor, one of the strongest experts in the universe. Once he was angered, the entire Milky Way galaxy would tremble. If it wasn't for the terrifying laws, the Milky Way galaxy would have collapsed long ago. Now that the powerful expert had broken free and witnessed the scene of the ancestral hall's destruction, he was truly enraged. It was like an ancient roar that spread across the river of time and space. What happened? In the distance, there were battleships arriving one after another. They were all chasing after this place. because the news of the Almighty being appearing had already spread for several days. In addition to the storm brewing in the universe, some people guessed that the ancestral land of the burial region was here. However, when they were still very far from their destination, they heard a terrifying roar. Only the heavens knew where it came from, but the divine king, whose cultivation was exceedingly high, predicted that this was the fury of a powerhouse. It came from a remote region of the cosmos and was enough to make a weak starfield explode. Today, the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor emitted a power even greater than when he attacked the Big Dipper back then. He was truly enraged and was suffused with a power capable of destroying heaven and earth. In the end, he suppressed the law domain of the Milky Way galaxy and unleashed a power capable of swallowing a star field. Great ancestor, the shame of our clan will be washed clean with the blood of all the races in the realm of burial. Wipe away our humiliation and slaughter the bloodline of the burial realm. The experts of the ancestral hall trembled as they angrily shouted. Their malevolent eyes stared at Earth and Su Yin, filled with a bone-chilling coldness. They wanted to be the first to see the bloody scene of Su Yin being cruelly suppressed by the ancient ancestor. The entire Earth was extremely quiet. They couldn't hide, and many people had nothing to fear. If a powerhouse wanted to destroy them, what could they say if they couldn't stop him? One, a pair of cold eyes opened, and the entire solar system flickered. Red blood essence evaporated and filled the starry skies. The entire solar system entered the domain of the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. It's coming. Su Yin raised his head. He could clearly sense the source of the Almighty Being's power rushing towards Earth. Earth didn't seem to exist in the Milky Way galaxy, but under the influence of the Almighty Being's power, Earth finally began to shake. This blue ancient planet seemed to be grasped by the palm of the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. Bang! A red palm pierced through the starfield and filled the solar system, covering Earth. All the living beings on Earth felt as if they had vanished in a thin air. Their bodies and souls had been destroyed. Earth's great Tao had just awakened. How could it resist the Almighty Being? The laws and order released by Earth began to collapse at this moment. Ha ha ha! All of you will die miserably, miserably, miserably. The experts of the ancestral hall let out sorrowful laughter. Their ferocious eyes looked at the trembling Earth. Even the Almighty Being had taken action. Was there any suspense? How could this be possible? Su Yin clenched his fists. He calmly looked at everything. If the Almighty Being attacked, he would choose to immolate himself. He definitely couldn't let the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor take him away. However, Su Yin still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He still believed that Earth could withstand it. He even believed that the burial realm's race also had an Almighty Being that appeared to protect the race. Just as the Almighty Being's hand was about to strike Earth, Su Yin was keenly aware that the ancient immortal mountain was reviving. However, it was different from what he imagined. The immortal mountain didn't directly revive. Su Yin felt as if the immortal mountain had disappeared. When he regained his senses, he discovered that Earth had become even more majestic and spectacular. Su Yin even faintly discovered that Earth seemed to have turned into a blurry shadow. It sat cross-legged in the prehistoric era. Its figure was as imposing as a celestial emperor. It sat cross-legged in the darkness and even began to illuminate eternity. It didn't manifest or appear in the world. It was only a blurry corner that had appeared. However, it contained a terrifying pressure of time. It was as if it was radiating from the ancient river of time. At this moment, the Almighty Being's palm abruptly stopped because it encountered an unprecedented resistance. This was the mysterious pressure of the vast river of time. It was unpredictable. The Almighty's pupils suddenly shrank. This blue planet had become even more mysterious. His power couldn't reach it. It was blocked by an extremely ancient aura. It was as if a terrifying shadow was sitting cross-legged in the prehistoric era. Just its aura alone was enough to stop the Almighty Being from attacking. This scene caused the faces of Zhu Yongbua and the others to turn gloomy. How could this be? Could it be that even the Almighty couldn't attack? Could it be that Earth was even more powerful than the most powerful ancient planet? Oh my God, I can see that the ancient planet is still operating in the starry sky. The experts who were watching the battle from afar were shocked. Earth was still there and was still operating calmly. It displayed a domineering aura. Even the Almighty would have to stop if they came. Everyone could feel that the ancestral hall's ancestors' power was even stronger. It gathered a terrifying source of power and was about to break the seal on Earth. However, he couldn't do it. Earth was too ancient and mysterious. It was like an ancient god that sat cross-legged on Earth and withstood any storm. We blocked the Almighty. Earth has blocked the Almighty. In the quiet Huaxiao Alliance, many clansmen who were waiting for death were all shouting excitedly. Earth had blocked the power of a supreme being and was still operating as before. How could they not be excited? Their clansmen could still continue to exist. Hee hee, what a pitiful race. How strong can it be? It's still a dead object. A cold voice appeared in the starry sky. A figure with a ferocious aura crossed over. His blood-colored hair danced in the wind. He was like a ferocious demon from hell. His eyes were fixed on Earth as he surveyed the people on Earth. He said coldly, "What delicious food, he." Dark nether race. Su Yan's eyes were wide open. His race had always regarded those from the burial realm as food. Now, the ancestral hall, the dark nether race, and the Kuan family had all arrived. This made Su Yin incomparably indignant. He clenched his fists tightly as Dali. "Su Yin, we meet again." In Yuan Kuei had also arrived. Back then, he had targeted Su Yin in the godly spiritual mountains and even had the Almighty's sacred weapon. Unfortunately, he was unable to suppress Su Yin. Instead, Su Yin had escaped. In Yuan Kuei had always been brooding over this. He looked up to the sky and laughed angrily. "Trash, how are you going to die this time? If I'm an Almighty, who dares to humiliate me?" Su Yan's eyes were filled with shocking anger. His black hair danced in the wind. His heart was filled with raging flames. "How many enemies do our race have?" Xia Zhe and the others smiled bitterly. They really felt that they were too weak. Any one of their enemies could easily wipe out the entire Earth. If it wasn't for Earth's unique environment, it would have been reduced to ashes. "You think you won't speak? Then you can avoid torture." In Yuanshi lowered his head and looked down at Su Yin. He smiled coldly. "Trash, speak. Where's the courage from before?" You evil dog." Tai Baokai raised his head and roared at In Yuanshi. "Die if you dare. Come and fight me. I can kill you with a fart." "Ha ha ha." In Yuanshi looked up to the sky and laughed angrily. "Good, very good. You will all be eaten by my race. Not even a bone will be left." Boom! At this moment, a terrifying and boundless airflow was released from the Milky Way that was filled with blood essence. It was a golden rope. The moment it was brought out, millions and millions of strands of golden light shot out. It was filled with a supreme aura that could imprison a true immortal. Immortal binding rope. Bao Cai's face fell. The supreme, precious treasure of the sect had been brought here and was even being used. The supreme treasure, immortal binding rope. The spectators at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy were all trembling. This supreme treasure was too terrifying. It was rumored that even powerful experts would be bound by it. The Dark Nether race had once used the immortal binding rope to restrain a powerful expert. The Dark Nether race had used this supreme treasure to slaughter a powerful expert. This treasure once bound a powerful being from the burial realm. I remember his name was Luoyu. That poor thing. Although it couldn't take his head, it still killed a powerful being. In Yuanshi threw out the immortal binding rope. This golden rope directly surrounded Earth and began to bind it. During the process, in the eyes of the ancestral hall's ancestor, Earth was like an immemorial god sitting cross-legged. However, there was now an immortal binding rope above that god. The ancestral hall's ancestor released the most terrifying and invincible power, swallowing the entire starfield. He pushed his strongest power to suppress Earth. During the process, there was a huge collision. The entire Milky Way flickered and seemed to be on the verge of collapse several times. But in the end, it stabilized. However, the outcome was very cruel. The ancestral hall's ancestors' power combined with the immortal binding rope's power finally resisted Earth. This also caused the rules and order that operated in secret on Earth to disappear without a trace. Destroy the entire Earth. Chapter 735. Earth has been breached. The extraterrestrial cultivators who were paying close attention were all terrified. They had to use the immortal binding rope and cooperate with the power of the Almighty to break through Earth. They were all shaken. Could Earth be the most powerful ancient planet? Otherwise, how could there be such a huge storm? Even now, the Milky Way had lost its luster, and the starry sky had sunk into silence. Some powerful heavenly deities could vaguely sense that 3 terrifying domains had collided within the solar system. None of them could stretch out their limbs. This meant that the ancestral hall ancestor and the immortal binding rope had joined forces and clashed with Earth's laws and order. Although they had suppressed Earth's laws and order, the ancestral hall ancestor and the immortal binding rope had also entered a confrontation. However, the ancestral hall, the Kuan family, and the Dark Nether race had joined forces. This situation was too savage. Light Ancestor, Yangbo, Kuan Tianyu, Kuan Song, In Yuanshi, and In Yuan Kuei, these were 5 divine kings. Even the ancestral hall and the Kuan family had joined forces with the heavenly deity realm experts. How could Earth withstand this kind of storm? Perhaps even a single heavenly deity could wipe out the entire planet. Ha ha ha! The flames of anger that had been suppressed for a long time now transformed into excited laughter. In the end, they suppressed Earth and broke the rules and order of Earth. Every one of them was able to unleash their strongest power and completely annihilate the entire planet. Many people stared at Su Yan with cold and ferocious eyes. This young supreme being who had killed to the point that even they were apprehensive was about to kneel at their feet and start to tremble. Rumble. Boundless killing intent descended from the entire solar system. It was even more ferocious than purgatory. This kind of battlefield was too grand, but the target they had joined forces against was an ancient planet that didn't even have a heavenly deity overseeing it. Was there any suspense? The answer was absolutely no. Even the ancestral hall experts wanted to capture Su Yan alive. They were well aware of Su Yan's value. As long as they could grasp these secrets, they would certainly be able to grasp the core secrets of the burial realm race, including Su Yan's heavenly art and Earth's origin. The raging storm that was as deep as the ocean, enough to tear the entire Huaxiao alliance apart, was about to come crashing down. In the starry skies of the outer realms, an even more terrifying fluctuation pervaded the air. That was the boundless divine might that filled the entire Milky Way. A shadow with a terrifying aura crossed over, and the essence blood that seeped out of its pores was enough to pierce through the great stars of the universe. A giant dragon arrived, a terrifying existence about to step into the mythological domain. His aura was only a bit inferior to the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor, but he was similarly powerful to the peak, terrifying to the point where he could burn down the world. When his pupils opened, the scene of the world withering appeared in his eyes. At first, he looked very blurry, but when he took a step forward, he had already arrived in the solar system and was charging towards Earth. His aura became even stronger. Although the life essence in his body was not as terrifying as that of a mighty being who could drown the entire Milky Way, it was still powerful and prosperous enough to shake the entire Milky Way, causing the solar system to tremble. If this person's aura could cover the star field and swallow the universe, then this was the birth of a cosmic dragon, the birth of a mighty being. But that was all. This kind of power and ferocity was enough to shock the divine king, especially Zhu Yongbua, whose expression suddenly sank. This was because the Kuan family's half-step mighty being had suddenly arrived and was staring at Su Yan with sinister eyes. In Yuan Kuei and the others were quite dissatisfied. Had the Kuan family's half-step mighty being come to intercept them? Patriarch, Kuan Tianyu, and the others were ecstatic. The Kuan family's patriarch had arrived just in time and used his own strength to stop the slaughter that was about to reach Earth. "What are you doing?" Zhu Yanbo was furious. Although it was the Kuan family's half-step mighty being, how dare the Kuan family compete with the ancestral hall for fortunes? Were they courting death? "Dao friend, please calm down." The Kuan family's patriarch's voice appeared. His voice was like a cosmic bell, shaking the heavens. He had already arrived before an old man in a black robe, an old monster who had lived for tens of thousands of years. However, he did not look old at all, and the essence blood in his body was extremely powerful. "What a beautiful planet." The Kuan family's patriarch said coldly, "Let this old man punish the last remaining evildoers. It's time for the slaughter of the burial realm race to come to an end. A new journey has begun. My Kuan family will lead the new burial realm race to continue its glory." The Kuan family's patriarch's power became even more terrifying. He was the Kuan family's strongest expert, the leader of the entire Kuan family, and a half-step mighty being. He coveted Earth and wanted the Kuan family to rise from Earth and continue the glory of the burial realm race. Another traitor. "You traitors will not have a good ending." Xia Zhe and the others roared. Was there still hope? Was there still a way out? Their hearts were filled with unwillingness and fury, and they still hoped for a miracle to happen. Haha! Fact have proven that only my Kuan family can continue to prosper in the burial region. The past is the past. You should thank my Kuan family for keeping the name of the burial region alive. You can continue to prosper, and even continue to prosper. The Kuan family's patriarch revealed a terrifying ambition. His old body emitted a vast amount of blood essence that filled the entire solar system. In an instant, the sun and moon were destroyed, and the sea of stars trembled. The entire world sank into endless destruction. The Kuan family's patriarch's aura made it hard for them to breathe. Even the heavenly deities of the ancestral hall felt suffocated. "I'll start with you as a sacrifice. I'll pave the way for my Kuan family to rise again." The Kuan family's patriarch looked down on everyone. He stretched out his palm, and the boundless palm was filled with the power to suppress the starry skies. It descended from the sky and rushed towards Earth. This was targeted at Su Yan. The Kuan family's patriarch wanted to capture Su Yan alive first to understand the secrets of Earth. Under this giant palm, Su Yan seemed extremely small. This was the difference between an ant and a giant dragon. No matter how strong Su Yan's foundation was in the great Dao realm, he couldn't even cause a ripple when facing this giant. Su Yan, Lei Lao and the others roared uncontrollably. Only when Earth was really broken did they realize how small they were. Facing such a giant, their hearts were filled with helplessness and despair. Who could withstand such power? Is Madman Su's era coming to an end? It's a pity that this young Supreme still hasn't started his invincible path of conquering the starry skies. I really don't wish for Su Yan to die in battle. I really hope that he can break some hidden rules and carve out a place for himself in the chaotic ruins. The various experts watching the battle in outer space sighed one after another. Someone said, "No matter what, Su Yan's glorious end is enough for him. His name will go down in history for a period of time in the future. But if he dies, it's all over. Everything has become nothing. No matter how strong his foundation is, it's still a joke." The sad thing is that Su Yan ultimately fell in the hands of the Kuan family. This isn't a good ending. It's understandable that he died in the hands of the ancestral hall, but to be suppressed by an expert who once betrayed their clan is a tragedy. Even a half-step mighty figure had taken action and was confronting Su Yan head-on. Even if the three divine kings of the burial realm came in person, they wouldn't be able to change the situation of the battle, unless a mighty figure from the burial realm really came to the battlefield. However, everyone knew that the Kuan family's patriarch had already taken action. Even if a mighty figure came, they wouldn't be able to save Su Yan. When the boundless divine might shrouded the sea region, many experts on Earth felt their legs go soft. They didn't even have the strength to rush over, let alone help Su Yan. The entire sea region fell into destruction and was torn apart. It had truly lost the power of Earth's order. The half-step mighty figure's aura erupted to the strongest. If it weren't for the celestial mountain fusing with Earth, the sea region would have been blown to ashes. In fact, the current Earth was sturdy enough to withstand a battle at the level of the Divine King. However, the half-step mighty figure was still too strong. It could be said to be the hand of the mountain that suppressed everything. People could see that Su Yan's figure had disappeared. What awaited him was the destruction of his body and soul. Let's go all out. Our clan will never lose. Amidst the endless destruction, Su Yan's physical body was on the verge of collapsing. His hair danced wildly, and his eyes stood erect. He emitted a furious thought of slaughtering gods and destroying immortals, and the fury in his heart surged out. Patriarch Luo Yu, let's show them the power of our clan's mighty figure. Su Yan let out a roar. In the midst of destruction, he took out a space ring. The ring cracked, and a shadow floated out. It sat cross-legged above the destroyed sea region. It had a supreme majesty and contained a divine might that made people prostrate themselves in worship. It was a self-sealed corpse. Luo Yu was powerful and intimidating enough. The moment he took it out, the trembling sea region stabilized. The entire world started to suffocate because of the aura emitted from Luo Yu's body. Oh no! The Kuan family's patriarch thought that victory was in his grasp. However, when he saw the corpse that Su Yan took out, his expression changed instantly. He wanted to withdraw his outstretched palm. However, Luo Yu had already been activated by Su Yan. The self-sealed aura in his body was released. That aura was even more terrifying and vast than the immortal furnace. In a brief flash, his aura engulfed the galaxy. Boundless blood essence pierced through the heavens. Mighty figure. Everyone lost control and roared. Even the Divine King's face turned pale. Many people wanted to retreat. However, it was already too late because Luo Yu's eyes had already opened. His withered hair danced wildly like wild grass, and his extremely majestic body erupted like an ancient demonic mountain. His aura swallowed the entire region, and it was boundlessly terrifying. Oh my God, look! The spectators around the Milky Way galaxy were scared half to death. The awakened divine power on Earth was too terrifying. This was a supreme demonic lord who had crossed realms and reincarnated. His roar shook the entire galaxy. Overflowing killing intent surged out, causing the entire Milky Way galaxy to tremble. This was the awakening of a giant dragon trapped in the abyss. In an instant, he attacked, tearing apart the sky and splitting the sea. The entire world seemed to be dyed red by blood. It was torn apart by the killing intent. It was twisted by the supreme power. Even the heavens were trembling. The killing intent condensed by a mighty figure before his death was enough to suppress the heavens. No! The Kuan family's patriarch was terrified. Even someone as strong as him was trembling. That was because the entire world no longer existed. Only slaughter was born. The entire Milky Way galaxy was dyed red. It was as if they had returned to an ancient era, a burial realm floating in a sea of blood. Burial Realm. Chapter 736. Burial World was a secret technique that had shocked both ancient and modern times, but it hadn't appeared in the cultivation world for a long time. It was said that this divine ability had long been lost, but now, the Burial World secret technique had appeared once again. It was a supreme being who had gathered all his strength before his death to form an unparalleled killing intent. The Burial World race actually has a supreme being overseeing it. No wonder Su Yan was so fearless. Originally, he had a supreme being protecting him. I really underestimated the Burial World race. There's a good show to watch now. Once a supreme being takes action, even a half-step supreme being will be bathed in blood. The spectators were overwhelmed with emotions. The death of a half-step supreme being was definitely a major event that would shake the universe. Moreover, Luo Yu's power erupted too suddenly. No one expected a supreme being to step forward at this time. Moreover, he used the most terrifying killing technique as soon as he attacked. The Burial World's secret technique was fully released and swallowed the entire Milky Way. Boom! The entire Milky Way galaxy was covered by the bloody light. The surging, murderous aura suppressed the entire star field. This was a kind of aura that could annihilate all living things pervaded the air. It made even the deities' hair stand on end. One after another, the deities were about to explode. One could imagine how powerful this divine ability was. No one expected Earth to have a supreme being overseeing it. His first attack was a peerless killing intent. No, countless experts screamed. Just the power of the burial world that filled the Milky Way was enough to make them despair. They couldn't escape at all, nor could they break free from the suppression of the burial world's secret technique. As Luoyu's aura was released, the boundless killing intent in the entire banquet was so strong that even a small storm could kill a great Tao realm expert and make it difficult for a deity realm expert to survive. Many people screamed as their bodies collapsed one after another. The entire Milky Way was dyed red with blood. Groups of gods and demons exploded, swallowed by the burial world power and crushed into a bloody mist. It was incomparably tragic. Even the gods were scared out of their wits. What was this? Just the energy ripples from the impact caused such a disaster. There was no doubt that the Supreme Being was too strong. Even the Divine King was shocked, let alone them. And once the unparalleled killing intent left behind by Luoyu was activated, it definitely wouldn't stop. Bastard, this is a killing technique left behind by a Supreme Being. Earth actually has such a foundation. The Divine King roared angrily as he saw the clues. The Kuan family and the ancestral palace suffered heavy losses. Many heavenly deities had fallen. This sudden tragedy was hard for many to accept, and even more cultivators began to flee in panic. In fact, Luoyu's power was mainly aimed at half-step mighty figures. Large amounts of experts died miserably, their bodies and souls completely erased by the essence blood radiance. This was a boundless and matchless murderous attack that was difficult to defend against. Even heavenly deities felt fear. There was simply no way to defend against it. Their bodies were torn apart like paper. Wang, just as the blood sea was about to engulf the Kuan family ancestor, his figure shone with boundless power. A simple and unadorned battle armor covered the Kuan family ancestor's body. It was an incomparably rare battle armor refined by a supreme being. This kind of battle armor was rare even among the pinnacle races. And now, the Kuan family's old ancestor was wearing this battle armor, pushing his strength to a new level. He had to evolve a unique universe to resist the Blood Sea's murderous aura. Chi-Chi, In Yuanshi, and In Yuankue joined hands to activate a blood-color halberd. This was the dark underworld race's supreme being's holy weapon. Even though Luoyu's power was aimed at the Kuan family ancestor, they were too close to him. If they couldn't block it, they would also suffer grievances. After a brief moment of light, the three sects' holy weapons were activated. Zhu Yanhua also took out a supreme being's holy weapon. He wanted to advance and retreat together with Kuan Tianyu. No matter what, when faced with this kind of peak-killing intent, the world became blood-red. Resplendent killing intent pervaded the air, surging with all types of terrifying light, shattering the heavens. The burial realm domain already began to evolve. Everyone seemed to be able to see the entire Milky Way fall into destruction. It was covered in dark red, covered in blood. It could be said to be a super purgatory world. If Luoyu wasn't targeting the Kuan family ancestor, then the disaster would be endless. Only heaven knew how many people would die. It was as if a great roar came from prehistoric times. This was the sound of Luoyu's killing intent. A great collision was already born. The sound was ear-splitting, spreading through the boundless starry skies. It made the cultivators who came from distant worlds to watch all tremble in fear. What did they see? The Supreme Being's holy weapons began to crack under the power of the burial realm. Even though these holy weapons were struggling on their own, how could they stop a Supreme Being? After all, they were all treasures refined by a Supreme Being. With Luo Yu's power, she could completely destroy the Supreme Being's holy weapons. What a terrifying collision. Is this a battle between two Supreme Beings? The Milky Way produced all kinds of destructive storms. The collision of two Supreme Beings caused the sun and moon to tremble and the sea of stars to explode. The entire starry skies fell into darkness and destruction. It was a chilling scene. Luo Yu's killing intent filled a great region and suppressed a half-step Supreme Being. Bastard! How can a dead person be so strong? The Kuan family ancestor angrily roared. The Supreme Being battle armor he was wearing began to dim, and there were even some cracks. This made him aghast. Once the Kuan family ancestor fell, then Kuan Tianyu and the others would also suffer heavy injuries. They might even die along with him. If the three of them fell, then the Kuan family would rise again. It was already a great fortune for them to be able to defend their clan. The Kuan family ancestor could only fight with his life on the line. He erupted with his most powerful source of life and joined forces with Zhu Yangbu's Supreme Being holy weapon to defend together. At the same time, he was also protecting the three Divine King. Once he fell, then the Divine King would be nothing but a cruel slaughter. Yin Yuanshi and Yin Yuankui were in a miserable state. Without the help of a half-step Supreme Being, they suffered heavy injuries. The Divine King's body began to crack, and the Supreme Being holy weapon he wielded was on the verge of rotting away. The Kuan family ancestor cried out miserably. The half-step Supreme Being could not withstand the power of the burial realm in the end. He felt that his life was about to be buried. His heart was filled with boundless regret. Why did he jump out just now? Why did he have to be the first to stand out and face off against the one charging towards Earth? Puffed. The Kuan family ancestor coughed out blood continuously. Half of his body had shattered, and his appearance was too miserable to look at. He struggled in the desperate situation and burned within the bloody burial realm. He wanted to survive. I finally understand why Supreme Beings are so terrifying. They can easily wipe out a star field. If the Kuan family half-step Supreme Being hadn't blocked the Supreme Being's most powerful attack, then the Ancestral Hall would have suffered heavy losses. Just who is this Supreme Being that took action? His strength is truly terrifying. Luo Yu's battle strength was definitely beyond ordinary Supreme Beings. As one of the ancestors of the Burial Realm race, he couldn't help but tremble in fear when he unleashed the Burial Realm attack with his most powerful attack before his death. The three Supreme Being holy weapons shattered, and the fragments flew out one after another. Puffed. Yin Yuanshi and Yin Yuankui cried out miserably. The Divine King's body could not withstand the pressure and began to crack. They frantically drew upon the essence of the universe to stabilize the shattered body of the Divine King. No matter what, their vitality had been greatly damaged. Only divine medicines could help them recover. Old Ancestor, Kuan Tianyu, and the other two were in a better state. However, half of the Kuan family ancestor's body had collapsed. This was a sign of hemiplegia. His vitality had declined to the extreme, and he could face the threat of death at any moment. The Milky Way galaxy was filled with a thick stench of blood. The number of experts who had fallen was immeasurable. Many heavenly deities had died, and almost all great Tao realm cultivators had been wiped out. What a tragic scene this was. They had not even attacked Earth, but their vitality had already been greatly damaged. Bastard! Many people lost control and roared. The Kuan family ancestor was on the verge of death, and the two divine kings of the dark underworld race were heavily injured. Zhu Yangbu and the others were also injured. Most importantly, the casualties of their subordinates were too great. Moreover, the holy weapons of the three sects' Supreme Beings were destroyed. This caused them so much heartache that they wanted to cry. Of course, if not for the three supreme being holy weapons blocking the way, Zhu Yanhua and the others would have perished. This was a supreme being. The cruel reality told them and the Kuan family that without a supreme being's foundation, they wouldn't even know how they died. Su Yin, I'm going to kill you. Kuan Tianyu roared at Su Yin, who was standing tall on earth. If the Kuan family ancestor couldn't hold on and died, the blow to the Kuan family would be too great. Moreover, it would affect the Kuan family's foundation in the Chaos Ruins. The consequences would be severe. They had already seen through Su Yan's trump card. It was an attack condensed from the corpses of supreme beings. It caused them to suffer greatly and almost be wiped out. All of you deserve to die. Suddenly, under the horrified gazes of the surrounding people, Su Yin soared into the sky and charged into the starry sky like a heavenly deity. This scene stunned them all. Was he crazy? Jumping out at this juncture, didn't he know that the Kuan family and the ancestral hall wanted to kill Su Yin 10,000 times? However, even more people felt fear in their hearts when they saw Su Yin charging out. They felt that he still had ruthless methods and corresponding trump cards. Perhaps he could kill a half-step supreme being who was struggling on the verge of death, or perhaps he was the divine king. In any case, Su Yin had charged out. The heavenly deities were frightened and quickly retreated, not daring to approach this vicious person. Even Kuan Tianyu and the Kuan Song region roared and erupted with their strongest defenses. They wanted to prevent Su Yin from using other methods to kill the Kuan family ancestor. After all, he was the one who had brought out the supreme being's corpse. Something's wrong. The Kuan Song region's expression changed drastically. At first, Su Yin was charging toward them, but he suddenly changed directions and charged towards Yin Yuanshi and Yin Yuankui. The two divine kings were already heavily injured, and the divine king's body was shattering. The two divine kings' expressions turned ugly as Su Yin charged towards them. For a moment, they couldn't advance or retreat. Retreating was a disgrace, but charging over? They were truly worried that Su Yin still had other trump cards. But just as they were hesitating, Su Yin had already arrived in front of them. His long black hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were overflowing with killing intent. He possessed a peerless, domineering aura and a spine that reached the heavens. He was majestic and imposing. Su Yan's aura could devour the starry skies. So what if he was the divine king? Su Yin still emitted a terrifying killing intent. He wanted to slaughter the divine king. Not good. Yin Yuanshi and Yin Yuankui immediately retreated. However, their injuries were too severe and even their speed was affected. Su Yin swooped down towards them, but behind him, a huge figure soared up. It was like a demon lord that looked down on the common people. It emitted a terrifying dark matter and contained the aura of a divine king that overflowed into the heavens. Kill! Su Yin and the divine king's bodyguard roared at the same time. Yin Yuanshi was truly in despair. He was heavily injured and couldn't fight the divine king. Moreover, Su Yin and the divine king's bodyguard were too fast. It was like a black star smashing into Yin Yuanshi, causing him incomparable pain. Su Yan's fist and the divine king's bodyguard's fist penetrated his chest and back at the same time. The divine king's blood gushed out. Remember, the Almighty just now was Patriarch Luo Yu. Chapter 737. This was a divine king. Even if it was a heavily injured god king, he was still powerful enough. But now, what do they see? Su Yin had torn a divine king apart, tearing apart the body of the divine king in Yin Yuanshi. A shrill scream of pain exploded. This was Yin Yuanshi's scream of extreme pain. His body was being torn apart. It was hard to imagine how great the pain was. Yin Yuanshi's body was being torn apart by Su Yin, even though his primordial spirit was still intact. Just thinking about it made people gasp in pain. They felt their scalps go numb. The entire solar system rumbled. The moment the divine king's body was torn apart, a large crack appeared in the universe. It was stained with blood and chilled to the bone. The moment the divine king's body was torn apart, the heavens fell and the earth cracked. Many celestial bodies exploded. Strange phenomena appeared between heaven and earth. The sky wept with blood. It was a tragic sight. This was the Divine King. His body was being torn apart just like that. Su Yin was bathed in blood. His long black hair fluttered in the wind as he released the ominous energy in his body. The surrounding powerhouses didn't dare to look at him directly. Countless people were breathing heavily, their foreheads covered in cold sweat. A Divine King's body was being torn apart. They couldn't imagine how crazy this person was. Yin Yuanshi's primordial spirit was still alive. He let out a shrill cry and erupted with the strongest primordial spirit power. He was about to die for a counterattack, but unfortunately, the primordial spirit of the Divine King's bodyguard was still alive. Su Yin was like a demon god rushing out of the darkness, crushing Yin Yuanshi's primordial spirit and causing it to tremble. Their race was born with a powerful body, but their primordial spirit was weak. This was the biggest flaw of the Dark Nether race. Once their body was damaged, it would be difficult for them to maintain their strength in front of their peers. I can't accept this. Yin Yuan cried out in despair. How could he be willing to die like this? He hadn't reached his old age yet, and still had several thousand years of lifespan. But now, he was about to die in Su Yan's hands. How could he be willing? Old thing, I'll send you on your way. Su Yin pounced over ferociously, his entire body exuding a boundless, ferocious aura. He swung his fist and punched at Yin Yuanshi's primordial spirit. With 3 consecutive punches, Su Yin smashed Yin Yuanshi's Yuan divinity into pieces, completely destroying it in the void. The spectators around the Milky Way were shocked speechless. Yin Yuanshi was killed just like that. First of all, who was this Divine King behind Su Yin? He looked unfamiliar. Could he be the new Divine King of the Burial Realm? At the moment of the Yin Essence Stone's death, the Divine King's bodyguard fiercely sucked in the blood of the Divine King that was scattered all over the place. This cruel and savage scene caused one's hair to stand on end. The body of the Divine King's bodyguard exuded a gloomy aura. He was like a demon that had rushed out from hell and swallowed the moon. His entire body was surging with blood energy. His aura was savage and ferocious. After all, he was a monster that had come back from the dead. He could use the blood of the Divine King to extend his battle prowess and protect Su Yin. Su Yin has killed the Divine King. The Divine King was killed just like an ant swallowing an elephant. Unbelievable. The Divine King of the Dark Nether race was actually torn apart by Su Yin. Too savage. How many trump cards does he have? This Divine King seems to be Su Yan's personal warrior. He seems to be Su Yan's Tao protector. Many people were discussing as they watched. The outcome had been reversed. The Kuan family's old ancestor was on the verge of death, and the Yin Essence Stone had fallen. Kuan Tianyu and the others roared in anger. The situation had exceeded their expectations. They felt that Earth was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Even many heavenly deity realm experts felt fear and wanted to flee the battlefield. They felt that there were too many variables. Earth was not a place that could be easily invaded. If Earth still had other trump cards, they wouldn't even know how they died, just like the army that had been killed in the burial realm. You're next. Su Yin appeared cold and tyrannical. With the help of the silver force armor, he looked like a young heavenly deity. Draped in the armor of the Divine King, he carried the Black Dragon Spear and rushed towards Yin Yuankui. Yin Yuankui was also gravely injured. This was a good opportunity to kill the Divine King. As long as he could rush over, he and the bodyguard could join forces and kill Yin Yuankui. Yuval spawn. Yin Yuankui was still immersed in the grief of losing the Yin Essence Stone. As the previous generation's chief of the Dark Nether race, he emitted a cold, killing intent that could devour human bones and blood. Facing Su Yin, who was rushing towards him, he decisively took out his damaged saint weapon. Although it was damaged, it was still strong enough to help the current Yin Yuankui survive in their hands. Kill him. At the same time, Kuan Tianyu and Zhu Yonghua also rushed over. The Kuan Song region was guarding the half-step Almighty and wouldn't leave even half a step. Kuan Tianyu and the others felt that this was an opportunity. They didn't believe that Su Yin still had a powerful killing weapon that could threaten the life of the Divine King. After all, even a peak race's foundation was limited. Chi-Chi. Suddenly, the starry sky seemed to have been sliced apart. It was a strand of dazzling sword light that was even thicker and more magnificent than a river of stars. It contained numerous stars of the universe within it. It was filled with fluctuations of sword chi that could slice apart the sky as it surged over. The sky was filled with sword energy, interweaving into a sea of 7 monstrous swords and chopping towards Kuan Tianyu. The injured Kuan Tianyu's eyes widened in anger. He saw Bamboo Moon, the woman he had once yearned for in his dreams. However, after his experience in the Big Dipper starfield, Kuan Tianyu didn't dare to have any ideas about Bamboo Moon. The Sky Bamboo lineage wasn't something the Kuan family could provoke. But now Bamboo Moon had arrived. She was peerlessly charming and full of vigor. She directly brandished the Big Dipper sword and furiously slashed towards Kuan Tianyu. The spectators were shocked. The Big Dipper starfield's lord had actually come to participate in the battle. However, when they recalled their experience in the Big Dipper starfield, they weren't too surprised. In fact, her identity was quite extraordinary. Roar! Another low roar exploded and reverberated in the starry sky. The Baokai rushed into the starry sky and directly brandished the banners of demons. This ancient flag released billions of layers of divine light. The demon domain's #1 treasure, the banners of demons, had a terrifying foundation. Ever since the Baokai obtained the inheritance of the banners of demons, it could use the banners of demons to its heart's content. After a slight recovery, its power wasn't inferior to Bamboo Moon's Big Dipper sword. What kind of secret treasure is this? Zhu Yanbu's face was gloomy. The storm pulled by the banners of demons was too fierce. With the recovery of the Force Armor Baokai and the Divine King's battlesuit, even a heavenly god couldn't hurt it. Together with the banners of demons, it could definitely temporarily obstruct the Divine King. The battle had reversed. The 2 Divine King were obstructed, and the Kuan Song region was protecting the Kuan family's half-step Almighty. After all, who would dare to participate in a battle between the Divine King? Even the heavenly gods didn't dare to participate in such a battle. Otherwise, they would definitely suffer heavy casualties. It's just a last-ditch struggle. Su Yin has no more trump cards. Many experts shouted angrily. More and more experts from their clans were rushing over. When the 10 Divine King arrived, they would see how they could resist. Meanwhile, Su Yin had already charged toward Yin Yuan Kuei. Together with the Divine King's bodyguard, his aura had fully recovered. When a pearl steaming with immortal light burned fiercely, Yin Yuan Kuei's eyes turned red. This was one of the 36 Great Tao Pearls. If the 36 Great Tao Pearls could be combined into one, it would be an invincible immortal weapon. Even if it was just a single pearl, it wouldn't be inferior to the sacred weapons of the Almighty. This set of treasures was indeed too frightening. In the past, it was the most powerful treasure of the Zong region. Clang, clang. The Great Tao Pearl and the broken blood-colored halberd collided, causing the starry sky to tremble. The moment the 2 treasures clashed, Su Yin roared to the sky. He was really bathing in the Divine King's blood to recover his violent fighting strength. His whole body released a rolling murderous aura. He wanted to slaughter the 2 Divine King of the dark underworld race. This opportunity was really hard to come by. Bang! Su Yin, who was rushing over, was filled with the spiritual will to slaughter the Divine King. Yin Yuan Kuei roared in anger and used the strongest power in his body. However, he couldn't block it. The Divine King's bodyguard was unharmed, but his Divine King's body was shattered. The dark matter that filled the sky shook Yin Yuan Kuei until he screamed in pain. The broken Divine King's body spurted out a mist of blood. He was about to be swallowed by the darkness. He let out a shrill cry and wanted to leave with the sacred weapons of the Almighty. However, the Great Tao Pearl was not made of paper. It had already suppressed the broken blood-colored halberd. The time of the battle was very short. The Divine King's blood had already spilled all over the void. Under the horrified gaze of everyone present, Su Yin swooped down along the darkness. Under the trembling eyes of the crowd, his palms suddenly grabbed Yin Yuan Kuei's arm. He let out a low roar and exploded with the strongest power of the human body. He was like a real dragon that had temporarily exhausted the divine power in his body, but recovered from the decline at an extremely fast speed. Yin Yuan Kuei looked very miserable. His entire arm had been torn off by Su Yin. Many people were scared out of their wits. That was the Divine King, and one of his arms had been torn off by Su Yin. This kind of conquest was indeed very taxing on the foundation of the human body. However, Su Yin still exploded with power. He split the sky with his bare hands. Together with the anger of the Divine King's bodyguard behind him, he beat Yin Yuan Kuei until he flew out like a dead dog. Many people felt that the too severely injured Divine King would really die at the hands of Su Yin. Su Yin, whose blood was burning with battle, his expression changed drastically. He caught a very familiar aura. When he turned around, he saw darkness descending. It was like the ancient Yin and Yang River had extended here. All kinds of figures with terrifying auras appeared in it. In the face of this sudden change, even Zhu Yanghua and the others were stunned for a short moment. Su Yan's hair stood on end. The experts of the Yin and Yang Road had come. They had actually chased him all the way here. Was it because of the Yin and Yang fish? Su Yin acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He gave up on chasing after Yin Yuan Kuei. However, what Su Yin didn't expect was that the Yin and Yang River was becoming more and more spectacular. It was like an ancient river that had run through the long river of time. It covered the sky and fell down, drowning the vast starry sky. Baokai, Su Yan's pupils shrank. He let out a furious roar. Run. The Yin and Yang River wasn't targeting Su Yin. Instead, it directly covered the void and rushed toward the Tai Baokai, who was waving the banners of demons. This Yin and Yang River was extremely magnificent and mysterious. Even the Divine King couldn't see through its secrets. A suffocating pressure emanated from it, and numerous figures with mysterious and terrifying auras appeared. Each of them was huge and boundless, and they directly suppressed the 10,000 demons flag to the point that it lost its luster. Black chains even emerged from the darkness. Save me! The Tai Baokai let out an uncontrollable roar. This was a very familiar aura. It was very similar to the aura of the Death Universe. Chapter 738. The change was extremely sudden. No one had expected that other forces would be involved. When the ancient Yin-Yang River appeared, it was as if it had run through the river of time and space. It was full of terrifying waves and filled the entire starry sky. It seemed to be a kind of treasure, but it was also like a very special river. The river was steaming with black fog. It was thick and vast, and the waves were spectacular. The scene inside was not clear, but it was full of extreme gloominess. It was like a long river that led to hell. It spread out here and drowned the vast starry sky. The banners of demons were directly stunned. They could not help the Baokai resist the Yin-Yang River. People could faintly see that various huge figures were emerging from the river. They filled the heavens and the earth, like gods and demons, overlooking the common people. They were extremely powerful and mysterious. They were floating in the Yin-Yang River. They did not show their true bodies, but it was enough to see how terrifying they were. It was as if they had crossed over from the dark areas of the universe. Their terrifying figures made people breathless. Who are they? Many people trembled and did not even dare to breathe, especially the black chains. They looked ordinary, but in fact, they were emitting waves that could make one's primordial spirit break. This was definitely an evil thing that suppressed the primordial spirit. It directly pierced through the void and locked the Baotsai's primordial spirit. Save me, the Baokai seemed to have lost its last life-saving straw. It found that it was cruelly suppressed. It could not use any strength in its body. Only the banners of demons were suppressing its body, preventing its body from being swallowed by the Yin-Yang River. Baokai. Many angry roars echoed in the Huaxia Alliance. The giant panda was regarded as the guardian beast of Huaxia, but now the Baokai was caught. The black chains stretched down from the Yin-Yang River and locked the Tai Baokai. Su Yin let out a ferocious roar, and blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. Raging flames were released from his body, and even the Celestial King's bodyguard was enraged, causing the entire solar system to tremble. Buzz! Several pairs of blood-red eyes opened in the Yin-Yang Sky River. They seemed to be shocked. They didn't pay attention to Su Yin. Instead, they were looking at the Divine King's bodyguards beside Su Yin. However, even though he was watching the Divine King's bodyguards, Su Yin's heart was filled with great fear. This was definitely a group of terrified creatures. They had definitely come here to capture the Tai Baokai. This power might be even more amazing than the demon realm. Even the demon realm couldn't do it, and they couldn't even find the Tai Baokai. However, they had done it so easily and directly. This made Su Yin furious. Let's go. Bamboo Moon's beautiful face turned pale. The enemy was too mysterious. Moreover, the Yin-Yang Celestial River was vast and mighty, spreading toward Su Yin. They wanted to directly take away Su Yin as well. Meanwhile, the imprisoned Baokai lost control and roared, "Run! Don't worry about me. Come and save me when you're strong enough. Run!" The Baokai had almost given up resisting. It was useless. Even the banners of demons were suppressed, let alone Su Yin. Moreover, the Yin-Yang path definitely hid a great secret and great fear. They didn't dare to touch it all. Since they had already come knocking on their door, there was no way to stop them. The Baokai was truly in despair. It was especially pitiful and terrified. It trembled and didn't know what kind of ending was waiting for it. You've stretched your hands too far. Scram for me. All of a sudden, it was as if a supreme demon king had returned to his race. He crossed over from a distant star field in an instant. Because of his speed, a figure swallowed the entire star field. Because of his speed, it caused a great explosion in the starry sky. This was a vicious person who was even more ferocious than the Cohen family ancestor. The killing intent of his essence blood evaporated from his pores. It was as if 100,000 true dragons had emerged from the abyss and spread across the entire Milky Way. What kind of terrifying and boundless essence blood was this? It was almost on par with a supreme expert. Grandpa Xiaohou, save him quickly. Su Yin lost control and roared. This was Xiaohou's arrival. He had even succeeded in breaking through and had crossed over to the half-step supreme realm. Zhu Yongbua and the others' expressions were as ugly as they could be. Another half-step supreme expert had walked out from the burial realm. Could it be that this race still had luck and fate? Was it not the time for them to go extinct? Boom! Xiao had already crossed over. The essence blood evaporating from his body became even more vast. It was as if billions of lightning bolts were spreading out from his body. This power was definitely more magnificent and majestic than the sea of stars. It directly charged towards the Yin-Yang Long River. The two terrifying waves collided and erupted with brilliant radiance. Leave my race behind. Xiaohou was frighteningly ferocious. Lightning flashed in his eyes as he waved his bone club and smashed it towards the Yin-Yang Long River. The Yin-Yang Long River was smashed until it trembled. Xiaohou's combat strength was too shocking. He was like a supreme expert, forcing the Yin-Yang Long River to retreat. However, before they left, they looked at Su Yin with cold eyes, as if they wanted to remember him. Where do you think you're going? Xiaohou continued to charge forward, erupting with his strongest power to intercept the Yin-Yang Long River. Baokai! Su Yin also rushed forward. However, just as he took a step forward, Zhu Yongbua pounced on Su Yin. He had already decided to suppress Su Yin and take him away first. Everything else could wait. Old bastard, get out of my way! Su Yin was filled with anger. The moment the Baokai fell into their hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Divine King's bodyguards rushed forward and helped Su Yin block Zhu Yongbua. Stop him and don't let him leave this place. He has no more trump cards to use. Otherwise, he would have attacked just now. Zhu Yanhua instantly gave the order. There were still many heavenly deities from the ancestral hall in the Milky Way galaxy. Although Xiao had rushed over, he was currently fighting against the Yin-Yang Long River. He erupted with his strongest power to stop the Yin-Yang Long River from retreating. There was no way he could help Su Yan. Kill, suppress Su Yan. Powerful heavenly deities rushed out from all directions. They were filled with hope and thirst for success. Since Su Yan had lost the Divine King's bodyguards, could he still stop a group of heavenly deities? There were more than a dozen heavenly deities rushing over. A single exchange was enough to crush a deity. Su Yan was draped in the Divine King's battle armor. He held the Black Dragon Spear and the Great Tao Immortal Pearl above his head as he rushed toward Xiao. Su Yan wanted to rush over and hand the Great Tao Immortal Pearl to Xiao. He hoped that the Great Tao Immortal Pearl could help Xiao intercept the Yin-Yang Long River and fish out the Baokai. However, there were too many enemies. More than a dozen Divine King joined forces and spat out a mouthful of blood. If it weren't for the Divine King's battle armor protecting his body, Su Yan wouldn't have been able to survive. Ha ha ha! He can't hold on any longer. He has no more trump cards. Suppress Su Yan for me. Move quickly. More than a dozen heavenly deities saw Su Yan's miserable state. They looked up to the sky and laughed. Their auras surged even more violently as their bodies revealed their strongest fighting strength. Su Yan was really forced into a corner. What was shocking was that he let out a long roar and actually drew upon the Earth's origin power. It surged into the starry sky and penetrated Su Yan's body. Buzz! Su Yan's aura suddenly increased by a large margin. His aura was incomparably astonishing. It was as if a true heavenly deity had been born. His roar shook the starry sky as he began to fight with them. Boom! Su Yan's fist collided with a heavenly deity from the ancestral hall. His fist radiance overflowed into the sky. His aura soared into the starry sky with peerless might. He revived the power of the Divine King's battle armor and struck the oncoming heavenly deity until his fist was bleeding. However, the problem was that it was very difficult for Su Yan to kill a heavenly deity in his current state. Even if he had many trump cards, it was still very difficult for him to kill a heavenly deity head-on. Moreover, there were more than a dozen heavenly deities joining forces. They let out cruel laughter and released their peak strength. They sealed the sky and the earth and trapped Su Yan. They wanted to exhaust the divine power in his body. It was too difficult for Su Yan to fight a heavenly deity with his current realm. No matter how heaven-defying he was, it was extremely difficult for him to kill a heavenly deity in a head-on battle. Even if a supreme celestial came, it was still impossible to complete a head-on battle. Although Su Yan killed 2 heavenly deities in the past, it could be said that it was an opportunistic move. It was not a head-on battle. It was just a little delay. What made Su Yan sad was that the Yin-Yang Sky River was about to leave the Milky Way galaxy. Xiao had already erupted with his strongest strength, but he still could not suppress the Yin-Yang Sky River. There was only hope if a supreme being made a move. Xiao had already tried his best, but he could not do it. Pairs of cold eyes still appeared in the Yin-Yang Sky River, looking down at Su Yan with cold, killing intent. I've released my aura. The demon region might find me. At that time, they will definitely fight. Bao-Cai's weak divine thought came and attacked Su Yan's soul. This made Su Yan feel incomparable pain. No matter who won, Bao-Cai would still be unable to escape being suppressed in the end. Bao-Cai really hoped that it would fall into the hands of the demon region. It really did not want to go to the Yin-Yang road. Come and save me. Bao-Cai let out a low roar. It no longer struggled and tried to merge with the banners of demons. It only hoped that it could survive and find a way to escape. Under the suppression of more than 10 heavenly gods, Su Yan's hair danced wildly. His entire body was burning, emitting an aura of infinite calamity. It was filled with a sky-high fighting intent and raging flames. He seemed to have turned into a fighting god. His roar shook the sky. The flames of anger in his chest could not be released, making Su Yin really go crazy. Boom! Suddenly, Su Yan's terrifying fighting intent and unyielding spiritual will woke up the immortal iron staff that had been sleeping in his body. The staff came out of his body on its own and stood in the void. The staff bent and pointed at Su Yin. In his fury, Su Yin found the source of his power. He instantly grabbed the immortal iron staff, and his fighting intent resonated with the immortal iron staff. A brief light. The immortal iron staff emitted a blazing light. It was like the immortal battle staff that had once destroyed the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It was filled with endless power and an endless source of power. Swish, swish, swish. At the same time, more than 10 fragments of the immortal iron staff flew out from all the major territories on Earth and merged with the immortal iron staff. Roar! For a moment, Su Yin roared, his eyes filled with killing intent. The immortal iron staff seemed to have a life of its own. Its aura merged with Su Yin. He was really like a fighting god. Even the Milky Way could not block out his light. This was the awakening of an all-powerful god of war. He was majestic and imposing, piercing through the void and standing between heaven and earth. Boom! Chapter 739. Oh my God! There were more and more spectators. The battle had already progressed to this stage, and it was beyond everyone's expectations. After all, Earth had already been breached, and there was an endless stream of experts from the Ancestral Hall. Even if Xiao Ho stood in the domain of half-step almighties, he could not play a role in reversing the battle situation. People felt that it was only a matter of time before Earth was brutally suppressed. But now, the great battle in outer space had shaken their hearts. The images reflected in their eyes caused their hearts to tremble. What did they see? A fighting god fiend had awakened, dominating the starry sky, majestic and imposing. When he waved the immortal iron staff, it was like a supreme weapon that shook the universe, shattering a corner of the starry sky. This was a super strong seal formed by more than 10 celestial gods, but now it could not trap this fighting god fiend who was about to go berserk. Su Yan's power had awakened, piercing through the super strong seal, and a terrifying divine light emerged. Dong! This immortal iron staff was filled with a power that could crush all living things. When Su Yan waved it, more than 10 celestial gods were sent flying, and several of them even exploded and died. Who were they? They were celestial gods, and every celestial god had terrifying prestige and power in the peak star regions. Even in the most powerful ancient star, celestial gods were top experts who dominated an area. The heavenly deities were all the pillars of the peak races, but now more than 10 of them were sent flying, and several of them even exploded. Just how savage was this scene? They seemed to have seen a divine king of fighting erupting, looking down on everything. What kind of weapon is that? How can it be so abnormal? Could it be a supreme treasure? Many people looked at the immortal iron rod that Su Yin was holding tightly. Immortal mist rose from it, and it was filled with a vast divine might. The aura it emitted caused people to be unable to breathe. This murderous weapon had truly activated its unrivaled power. Just now, after fusing with more than 10 fragments, a large part of the immortal iron staff had recovered. Although it was still far from being complete, the current immortal iron staff was already terrifying enough. Especially when its aura merged with Su Yan's, it caused his battle strength to soar. It was as if the murderous weapon that had once crushed the earth was awakening. Boundless light shone, and battle power surged. Su Yin had truly comprehended the life of the immortal iron rod, its strength, this indestructible murderous weapon. Even if it was shattered, it could still reform itself. It was as if the immortal iron staff had become one with Su Yin. It was an indispensable part of his life. If a god blocked him, he would kill a god. If a Buddha stood in his way, he would destroy a Buddha. Baokai. Su Yan's blood-dyed hair was disheveled. The immortal iron rod in his hand was trembling. His burning eyes looked at the gradually blurring yin-yang road, causing Su Yan's anger to continue burning. He roared, "All of you deserve to die." Boom! The immortal iron staff he gripped tightly revived again, erupting with Su Yan's fury, full of iron-bloodedness and domineeringness, full of exceptional boldness that could crush the universe. Leave quickly. The heavenly deities who were still alive were scared out of their wits. More than 10 of them working together couldn't trap Su Yan, and several of them were even killed by him. Moreover, when these heavenly deities encountered the power of the immortal iron rod, they all felt great fear of having their body and soul destroyed. Without a doubt, this immortal iron rod couldn't be touched. Once touched, the heavenly deity's body would directly collapse. This supreme treasure was too powerful. They speculated that it might very well be a broken supreme treasure. "Kill!" Su Yan roared. His tyrannical bearing was suffused with raging flames. He used the earth-shrinking technique and crossed the starry sky to chase after these fleeing heavenly deities. "All of you die for me." Su Yan's aura was too ferocious, releasing the anger in his heart. He descended from the sky, holding the immortal iron rod with both hands. He smashed through the starry sky, collapsing celestial bodies one after another. It was like a supreme treasure that could destroy the solar system. No. Facing the incoming immortal iron rod, the heavenly deities were all terrified. Goosebumps rose all over his body. He tried to use his own secret treasure to block, but he discovered that the heavenly deity weapon was directly crushed into pieces. Surging ferocious energy assaulted his face. Just the aura emitted by Su Yan was already enough to make this Kuan family's heavenly deity despair. He let out a terrified scream. This rod smashed onto his head, causing his sturdy heavenly deity body to break apart. Su Yan was bathed in the blood of heavenly deities. His eyes overflowed with ferocious energy. He began a massacre here, wanted to slaughter all the heavenly deities. Slaughtering deities. He is slaughtering heavenly deities. The spectators were all scared. These were heavenly deities, but they couldn't block the power of the immortal iron rod. It was like pulling weeds. One after another, the heavenly deities exploded and died. The fall of each heavenly deity led to the collapse of the starry sky, the scene of blood flowing like a waterfall. The solar system was dyed red with blood. This was a ghastly scene. One after another, the heavenly deities were sent flying like dead dogs. Another mournful scream exploded. What made everyone flabbergasted was that Yuan Kuei still couldn't escape in the end. At first, he was seriously injured, so Yuan Kuei wanted to escape. When he was about to escape to the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, he was stomped into a bloody mist by Xiahou, who rushed back. Yuanshi and Yuan Kuei were both dead. The two great divine king of the dark underworld race. One was torn apart by Su Yan, and the other was stomped to death by Xiahou. This really made people panic. The two great divine king had died miserably. How could the dark underworld race leave this matter at that? I really don't know how this battle will end. The spectators continued to increase. People expected that in a few days, the major peak races of the prosperous cultivation world would rush over after hearing the news. At that time, the Milky Way galaxy would become even more lively. Rumble. At this time, a majestic aura filled the air and appeared majestically in the Milky Way galaxy. It was full of a terrifying sense of oppression. It was as if a giant beast had broken free from its shackles, causing all living beings in the universe to tremble in fear. The supreme expert has awakened. The whole place was in an uproar. The reversal of the situation had appeared once again. Perhaps there was no need for more experts from the ancestral hall to rush over. A portion of the supreme expert's power was enough to reverse the entire battle. Xiao's eyes were red as he rapidly approached Su Yan. But what made people panic was that the ancestral hall ancestor who was fighting back on Earth suddenly let out a loud roar. Billions of stars wailed, and the entire Milky Way galaxy trembled. Rumble. Those were two palms, so large that they were comparable to the sea of the universe. This was the power of the ancestral hall ancestor. He was still fighting back against the power of Earth, but his two arms broke free. His palms were boundlessly large, and with a light pat, the starry sky collapsed. Yuan and the others turned pale. The Supreme Expert's two palms stretched out. One palm covered Xiaohou, while the other suppressed Su Yin. The power of a supreme being was magnificent. Just a single palm was filled with the power of a star system. The moment the palm rushed out, it was visible to the naked eye. Along the way, many large stars in the universe exploded one after another. Many people were stunned. They really felt that Su Yin was completely finished. In this kind of battle, no one could help Su Yin. After all, Xiaohou was suppressed. Even if a half-step Supreme Expert was powerful and could overturn the palm of a Supreme Expert for a short time, the Supreme Expert could use this time to suppress Su Yin. Xiaohou let out a long roar. His tall and majestic body instantly crashed into the Supreme Expert's palm. At the same time, he roared, "Old thing, don't make a mistake. If you kill one of my clansmen, 100,000 people from the ancestral hall will be buried with him." This was an unusually cruel voice that echoed in the Milky Way. It was accompanied by bloody pictures that spread out in the sky, stained with blood. It was a scene of purgatory in the human world that appeared in the eyes of the world. In fact, as early as a few days before this battle, a storm of blood had swept through the universe, alarming all the major tribes. Even the peak tribes were moved. At the same time, one thing was confirmed. The incident in the second ancestral land of the burial realm was true. Even in the chaos ruins, a fierce battle had broken out. It could be said that in just a few days, the disaster had caused a sensation among the upper echelons of the major tribes. After all, a bloody battle had broken out in the chaos ruins. The ancestral hall's precious resource lands had been overturned. That was the ancestral hall's most precious resource mystic realm. But it had been massacred. Xiaohou and the rest had joined forces to attack the ancestral hall's resource lands, causing the ancestral hall's foundation in the chaos ruins to suffer heavy losses. Even a peak dojo had been overturned. In this universe era, this was the most tragic attack the ancestral hall had ever suffered. It originated from the boundless fury of the Burial Realm clan. Xiaohou and the rest had massacred the mining area. They had killed until the heavens and the earth had cracked. Ghosts had cried and gods had howled. Large groups of Ancestral Hall experts had been suppressed and taken away. The Ancestral Hall's ancestral land couldn't rescue the experts that had gone there because they were worried that a terrifying giant would target their ancestral land. What had happened in those few days had shaken the prosperous cultivation world. The peak tribes were quite shocked. They hadn't expected the Burial Realm clan to have another half-step Supreme Expert. Anyone could see the determination of the Burial Realm clan. They had killed until the myriad tribes were terrified. No one had expected the Burial Realm clan, which had been hiding in the major cultivation starfields, to retaliate so fiercely. You're courting death. Burial Realm clan, you should really be exterminated. Zhu Yanbo was about to go mad with anger. Peak dojos had been overturned, and dozens of resource mystic realms in the chaos ruins had been destroyed. The losses were too heavy. Zhu Yanbo was so angry that blood flowed out from the corners of his eyes. This was simply cutting off their flesh. They had even dared to massacre the chaos ruins resource lands. This was simply too audacious. One had to say that it was a form of intimidation. Even Su Dalong and the rest had detained and taken away 100,000 Ancestral Hall soldiers and powerful disciples. This was a complete, indiscriminate destruction. If Earth was defeated, they would be buried along with it. In short, once such a collision occurred, the Ancestral Hall would suffer a great loss. Boom! But what made everyone tremble was that the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor continued to wave his palm in his fury. He rushed towards Su Yin, who was crossing the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, and Su Yin. Chapter 740. If a half-step almighty was determined to deal with the Ancestral Hall, to the point of not doing anything in the future and only keeping an eye on them, this matter would indeed cause a group of people to panic. Even if it was a divine king doing this, it was enough to cause people to tremble. After all, experts couldn't protect their clansmen forever. There had been such examples in the past. There was no lack of ruthless people in the universe waiting for hundreds or thousands of years just to cripple their clansmen with great potential. No matter how strong a defense was, there would always be moments of carelessness. If this continued, a group of people would inevitably decline, especially when a half-step almighty had spoken such ruthless words. This caused Zhu Yongbua to feel a chill in his heart. If Xiahou really went crazy, the Ancestral Hall would suffer great losses. However, the Ancestral Hall ancestor had no intention of stopping. He didn't care about the lives of 100,000 clansmen and wanted to suppress Su Yin and take him away. Rumble. Since Earth had lost the protection of the laws and order, the vast territories trembled in an instant, followed by a great destruction. This was the palm of an almighty passing through and rushing towards Earth. The energy fluctuations released by the light had already caused a vast region to collapse. Smoke and dust filled the sky as earth and rocks rolled. Who could withstand this kind of power? Under the fury of Almighty, a ferocious aura filled the air and caused all living beings to panic. Moreover, the entire Huaxia Alliance was shaking. They even felt that the Huaxia Alliance would completely vanish under the palm of the Ancestral Hall ancestor. The consequences of Almighty attacking without caring about the consequences were extremely severe. Millions of lives would be plunged into misery and suffering. Fortunately, the Almighty was targeting Su Yin. Otherwise, the Huaxia Alliance would suffer great losses, and the 10 major bases would collapse one after another. War God Su Yin. Countless people roared and shouted. They couldn't bear this scene. The vast regions were collapsing, and the entire world was heading towards destruction. Moreover, the Almighty's strength was infinitely close to Su Yan's. If Su Yan hadn't grasped the immortal iron staff and wore the Divine King's armor, he would have been suppressed along the way. Moreover, the Divine King's armor had begun to crack. In the face of this Almighty's aura that caused his body to explode, Su Yan let out a furious roar. The great Tao Immortal Pearl emitted light and evaporated a mortal fog, resisting the Almighty's pressure. He then rushed towards Emperor Qin's mausoleum. This place was currently the strongest defense on Earth. Even Su Yin wanted to see how strong the energy source would be when all 49 dragon pillars were fully awakened. Here, Zhu Yongbua's face was gloomy. He knew very well where Su Yin was heading. Back then, their ancestral hall had buried a group of soldiers here. Even now, their fate was still a mystery. However, now that Su Yin had come here to hide from the calamity, Zhu Yongbua sneered. What kind of dangerous place was there in this world? Could it block a mighty figure? Zhu Yongbua's expression was ferocious. The Ancestral Hall had suffered great losses in this battle. However, he felt that everything was worth it. As long as he could destroy the Burial Realm's race, any price was worth it. Once this force was destroyed, the Ancestral Hall would be unstoppable in the universe. There would be no more powerful enemies. Just as the Almighty's palm touched this area, it was like hitting a heavenly drum. A loud sound reverberated, piercing through the sky. The sound was deafening and spread throughout the entire starry sky. Open for me. Su Yan's low roar could be heard. He had activated the 49 giant pillars. This was a dream-level killing array that had stood here for countless years. Now, they were all starting to awaken. There was a short burst of light. It was as if 49 ancient gods were awakening. Divine power surged out from their slumber. These 49 giant pillars erupted in an instant. The light emitted by the pillars illuminated the entire Milky Way. The world seemed to have returned to ancient times and entered the God-fiend time space. It was a killing intent that swept through the universe. It was bone-chilling. Super Killing Array, activate. The powerhouses around the Milky Way felt their hair stand on end. This was the sign of a super killing array being activated. Just the burning energy alone was enough to cover the entire Milky Way. Giant pillars spewed out a monstrous light that pierced the heavens. In front of these pillars, the sun, moon, and stars seemed insignificant. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of feet tall it was. It seemed as if it could pierce through the entire Milky Way. These were 49 giant pillars. They gathered the power of the earth and drew upon the power of the starry sky. The entire world was dyed a blood red. Boom! The vast starry sky trembled incomparably violently. It was hard to imagine how this killing array was arranged. Just the energy fluctuations alone were terrifying enough to make one gasp for breath. Following that, 49 beams of light that resembled 49 ancient gods burst out, shattering the heavens. Moreover, their auras merged into one. It was as if the purgatory of gods and devils had been born, outlining an extremely grand universe prison. An unparalleled killing intent spread out, causing the sea of stars to tremble. Even a heavenly god would find it difficult to withstand the aura released. Inconceivable. What kind of killing array is that? It actually managed to trap one of the Almighty's hands. The spectators found it hard to believe. The Almighty's hand was indeed trapped in the killing array. These 49 giant pillars each spouted out a power that locked the Almighty's hand. But how could the Almighty be so easily restrained? Even a single hand contained boundless combat strength. The entire hand released a divine light of order. It was abnormally terrifying and was enough to destroy the heavens and earth. Boom! The Almighty's hand waved and slapped towards the 49 giant pillars. The energy fluctuations were too vast. It tore through the sky and revealed a surging blood-red light. People saw that the Almighty's hand was becoming more and more terrifying. It was like the hand of the heavens and was about to shake off the 49 giant pillars. However, these 49 giant pillars were not ordinary objects in the end. They were attacked by the Almighty's power until they burned fiercely. Each giant pillar released a prehistoric aura. It was as if they were forged from the bones of prehistoric beasts. Roar! Within the giant pillar world, billions of giant beast phantoms appeared. It was as if they were going to explode the heavens. It was especially terrifying. If it wasn't for the fact that the layout wasn't enough, then this killing array would be even more unimaginable. But it was enough to defy the heavens. It released the rumbling of tsunamis and the roars of 10,000 beasts. Even the Almighty's aura became dim. Chop! Su Yin emerged from the violent energy fluctuations. He gathered the strength of the 49 giant pillars and evolved a great spatial slash that could split apart gods and devils. It contained the strength of billions of giant beasts as it ruthlessly chopped down on the Almighty's hand. Kacha! Under everyone's trembling eyes, this terrifying hand was forcibly cut off. The giant hand violently trembled and released all kinds of order lights. Every beam of blood light could hack off a powerhouse's head. This was only the blood that splashed out. The giant hand was like a thick mountain range that fell from the sky. It smashed into the ground and caused a great earthquake. Even though the hand was chopped off, it still contained destructive fluctuations that made one tremble with fear. An indignant roar appeared, causing one's soul to tremble. This was the fury of a powerful being. One of his arms had been chopped off. What kind of humiliation was this? A powerful being's arm had been chopped off. Moreover, it was Su Yin who activated the space within the killing array. This made the spectators gasp in disbelief. It was to the extent that what made one's blood run cold was that the Almighty Being's mournful roar appeared once again. It emitted a roar that could devour all life. Many people went weak on the ground and felt as if they were suffocating to death. Their souls were about to shatter. Heavens! Many heavenly deities cried out in alarm. They saw Xiaoho's tyrannical aura as he brandished the bone club and smashed the Almighty Being's hand to the point where it began to tremble and crack. Even when the killing array chopped off his arm, the Almighty Being's aura began to decline. Xiaoho seized this opportunity to emit a world-shocking power. He directly grabbed the Almighty Being's hand and tore it apart. The blood gushed out like a great river, flooding the sea of stars and piercing through the stars. The bloody scene was suffused with an unparalleled ominous glint. It shook the divine king so much that his legs went soft. This world is too crazy. Although the almighty being couldn't display his peak strength when fighting against the ancient life star, his 2 arms were no small matter. But now both of them have been chopped off. The spectators felt a chill in their hearts. Many people were retreating. This was because all kinds of horrifying airflows emerged from the depths of the Milky Way. A giant was spitting out an immeasurable amount of killing intent. He wanted to dye the heavens red and slaughter billions of creatures. Ha ha! Xiahou looked up to the sky and roared. His messy hair danced in the wind. His majestic body was like a heaven-devouring demon lord bathed in the almighty being's blood. Moreover, he used cruel means to refine the essence of the almighty being's hand and swallow it all. How domineering and ferocious was this? It made the entire Huaxiao alliance cry out. This was their family's ancestor, an expert belonging to the burial realm. He was a half-step almighty being of the generation, Xiahou. Zhu Yanbo and the others were scared away. The almighty being had lost 2 of his arms. He couldn't even control the power of the earth. Even the god-tying rope flew out and left the Milky Way. There was no doubt that the god-tying rope would fly back to the dark nether race when no one was controlling it after the death of Yin Yuanshi and Yin Yuankui. Xiahou stared at the god-tying rope. He wanted to pull it over, but then he shook his head. This supreme treasure couldn't be suppressed by force. Even if it was suppressed, it would be difficult for him to use it. After all, the god-tying rope contained the will of the previous experts of the dark nether race. It couldn't be easily peeked at, unless several almighties joined hands. There was no hope of getting the god-tying rope. Well done. Xiao's rough face was full of smiles. If Su Yin hadn't chopped off the almighty's arms with the help of the 49 giant pillars, he wouldn't have been able to injure him so easily. An almighty who had lost 2 arms would certainly have a great impact on his foundation. Do we win? That terrifying expert has lost 2 arms. He left, and his aura is fading rapidly. The almighty had retreated and wouldn't stay here for a moment longer. He was worried that Su Yin would use the 49 giant pillars to trap him. Even if he didn't die, his vitality would be greatly damaged. However, to control the 49 giant pillars was extremely difficult. Su Yin couldn't do it all. He could only lure the almighty here. We won, Su Yin staggered. His body was covered in wounds, and he panted heavily. He didn't think that they had really won. After a series of bloody battles, Su Yin had also exhausted his foundation. He clenched his fists and stabbed the immortal iron staff into the ground. Su Yan's eyes emitted a terrifying light as he let out a low roar. Yuan was also in great pain. Back then, the 3 of them had gone on a long journey to the universe. They had gone through thick and thin together. But now, Baokai had been captured. Moreover, it wasn't over yet. Xiahou could already feel that the general trend of the universe was surging towards the Milky Way. That kind of aura was suffocating. This was the fury of the 2 races in the universe that was about to charge towards Earth. If it was a war, then the war hadn't arrived yet. Right now, there were already shocking waves in the universe. The Ancestral Hall had suffered heavy losses. The top-notch dojos were overturned. Dozens of resource mystic realms in the chaos ruins were bathed in blood. The heads of 100,000 clansmen danced in the air and dyed the vast starry sky red. An unparalleled calamity was brewing. It was as if the horn of war had been blown. Bloody light bloomed, and the world turned dark red. The color of blood enveloped the entire universe. Strands of suffocating waves were awakening from their slumber, especially in the direction of the chaos ruins. A terrifying expert had awakened and was about to charge into the universe. Chapter 741. The chaos ruins were a chaotic dance of gods and demons. The vast chaos zone was located at the edge of the universe. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of miles long. It was boundless, as if it surrounded the entire universe. And the universe was located at the center of the chaos ruins. Some people said that the chaos ruins were even vaster than the entire universe. It was impossible to estimate its size, and it was filled with mysteries and legends. The primal chaos ruins were filled with primal chaos palea energy, and it was difficult to see what was going on inside. Furthermore, there was a suffocating aura about them. If the primal chaos ruins were fully opened, then the pressure would dissipate. Once this day arrived, it would represent the beginning of the struggle for supremacy in the chaos ruins. At that time, the experts of various races would appear and compete for the fortunes of the various great mystic realms. But now, in the depths of the chaos ruins, a terrifying aura was emitted. A terrifying existence was awakening from its slumber. The thick chaos was boiling, and only the heavens knew how many tens of thousands of miles it affected. In the star fields closer to the chaos ruins, many people trembled and their legs went soft. They really felt as if a giant dragon had risen from the chaos and was looking down on the common people. Could it be that the overlords of the chaos ruins also want to participate? The universe continued to seethe. The big shots of different races were traveling to different places to gather information. Until now, the Ancestral Hall and the Dark Nether race had sent out a large number of experts, especially the Dark Nether race, who had been guarding the Dark Nether race. The aura of the Dark Nether race that could swallow a star area had disappeared. This meant that their race's almighty expert had gone to the battlefield. News of Yuanshir and Yuankue's deaths had not spread. Now, the various races in the universe thought that these two peak powers had joined forces once more to overturn the ancestral land of the Burial Realm race. But now, it seemed that the situation was serious. The Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor had gone, and now the Dark Nether race's almighty expert had also left. What made countless life forms panic was that terrifying existences were awakening in the Chaos Ruins. The Chaos Ruins are also participating. Which side are they on? No matter who they are on, it is impossible for the Burial Realm race to receive any reinforcements. I really don't know how this matter will end. Many experts were puzzled. Why had the Chaos Ruins been alarmed? Among them, there were some terrifying powers that rarely sent experts into the universe, unless it was the moment when the Chaos Ruins were about to open. But now it was obvious that the time had not yet arrived. But they were making a move. Many people were watching from afar, gazing at the ancient primal chaos. This was the edge of the cosmos. The primal chaos ruins had been there for countless years. Only a great character could emit a terrifying aura and pass through the primal chaos ruins in search of fortune. Look, many old antiques turned pale. Even the experts from the various peak forces who had come to watch had their expressions changed. The first thing that entered his eyes was an extremely divine golden path. It seemed as if it stretched out from the end of the chaos, and it passed through the ancient chaos. Only the heavens knew exactly how many regions it passed through before it arrived at the edge of the chaos. The universe bridge has appeared. Could it be? Old antiques turned pale, and the divine king was terrified once more. The universe bridge was a very special secret treasure. Rumor had it that, when unleashed to the extreme, it could cross 1,000-star domains and form a golden universe bridge. Just by thinking about it, one would know how crazy the cosmic bridge was. The value of this item surpassed that of a powerful being's holy weapon. It was definitely ranked just below the supreme treasures. What kind of treasure is the universe bridge? Why do all the heavenly deities look like they've eaten aphrodisiacs? Many of the younger generation had gathered here, and there were even some great warriors from big and small powers. They were surprised as they looked around. Those were the top great warriors of the universe or the old antiques of the ancient families. These people were all solemn as they tidied up their clothes and became full of energy. They seemed to be on a pilgrimage and had encountered an extremely sacred event. They stood respectfully around the universe bridge. This change stunned many experts. What kind of existence had arrived? Why were they acting like this? Were they welcoming a powerful being? But in the end, what made everyone pale was that an old deity king had come and was also standing at the other end of the cosmic bridge, waiting. This was a little shocking. Not many experts knew about the Universe Bridge, but those who knew about it knew very well what it represented. Not to mention the power behind the Universe Bridge. The value of the Universe Bridge alone sometimes surpassed that of a supreme treasure. This supreme treasure could sometimes pass through the incomplete cosmos and search for supreme fortune. This item had been speculated in myths and legends throughout the various eras of the universe. Now that the Universe Bridge had appeared, it was definitely the arrival of the terrifying existence behind it. Boom! The Golden Universe Bridge continued to shine brilliantly. Finally, it erupted with billions of rays of light and pierced through the chaos. It was like a bridge leading to the immortal domain, extremely sacred and overflowing with vast space-time fluctuations. Footsteps could be heard on the Golden Avenue. Standing on the bridge, even a mortal could cross a vast territory in a short period of time. I see a powerful being walking on the bridge. Many people exclaimed. They could vaguely see a golden-robed old man walking on the Universe Bridge with a golden feather fan in his hand. He looked like a transcendent being, but he possessed great divine might, as if an immemorial god was walking over. His divine might was vast, and the aura he emitted made all living things tremble. Before he even reached his destination, this part of the cosmos had lost its luster under his might. Suddenly, there was silence. The golden-robed old man had brought out the Universe Bridge from an unknown place, but he had already walked out of the chaos ruins and arrived outside the cosmos. The next moment, everyone around was shocked, because behind the golden-robed old man was a group of people, both men and women. At first, they seemed very calm, but when they left the chaos ruins, each of them seemed to have been endowed with monstrous divine power. Their battle bodies were ignited in unison. Oh my God! Some young geniuses were shocked, as if they had seen a group of kings of the younger generation awaken from their slumber. Each of them had an aura that could swallow rivers and mountains and dominate the heavens. They were definitely a group of dragons and phoenixes among the younger generation. After all, the chaos ruins were extremely powerful, and their strength was suppressed. Only in the secret realm could they be unharmed. Saintess Z-Wei. Some people were surprised because they saw a familiar woman in the crowd. After all, her appearance was too outstanding and would attract attention wherever she went. She was like a pearl blooming here. Yin was also here. It was surprising that she had walked out of the chaos ruins. If Yin was here, he would definitely be extremely surprised. The eccentric fairy Xia was also in the crowd, standing together with Yin. They were a pair of stunning beauties who attracted everyone's attention. So it's Vice Dean Jinyu. A group of experts waiting at the Universe Bridge spoke excitedly. They were especially aware of this person's influence. Behind them was the Tao Temple. If it was the strongest force in the universe, including the chaos ruins, no one would dare to draw a conclusion. But if it was the most mysterious and prestigious force in the universe, it would definitely be the Tao Temple. But this force would only appear when the chaos ruins opened. Did anyone come out before? Vice Headmaster Jean, you surveyed the surroundings. His divine eyes were like lightning, and his words were like thunder. He appeared extremely terrifying, able to shake the primal chaos with every move he made. The aura he exhaled from his pores was unbearable. The people here were all stunned and said that they didn't. Jean, you was suspicious. Just a while ago, he had sensed an abnormally terrifying fluctuation in the chaos ruins. However, it had quickly calmed down. He suspected that some old monsters had also come out of the chaos ruins. Vice Dean Jean, you didn't investigate in detail and left with his people. He still had important matters to attend to. The storm is coming. It's too big. Some people could already see the world-shocking undercurrents rising and falling, surging endlessly towards the Milky Way galaxy. Although 99% of the people didn't know the exact location of this place, the torrent originating from the cosmos was boundless and almost unchangeable. It was beginning to converge toward the Milky Way and was about to turn into a monstrous wave. Earth. The ancestral teachings of the burial realm race stated that their experts were not allowed to enter the back progenitor. However, since the seal on Earth had been lifted, the back progenitor and others could come. Xiahou already felt unprecedented pressure. He stood in the starry sky and carefully sensed the power of the Milky Way. "Grandpa Xiahou, how can we survive this calamity?" Suyin asked in a hoarse voice. He was in low spirits. Bao Kai had been captured just like that, but he couldn't do anything about it. This kind of powerlessness was even more unbearable than the powerlessness he felt on the immortal star. At present, a large number of his race members had left Earth. They had been transported away by Xiahou using a secret technique. "We can't hide." Xiahou's figure was tall and majestic. He looked beyond the Milky Way and said coldly, "We can't hide. We can only fight to the death. I can observe the situation of the Milky Way. I can control it and block the Almighty, but if several come, they will be truly troublesome." Xiahou knew that with the burial realm race's current foundation, they couldn't stop them, even if the old leader returned. The premise was that they were determined to deal with the burial realm race regardless of the consequences. That would be a true genocide, but Xiahou felt that the two races didn't have the courage. How good would it have been if this place had awakened 100 years earlier? Xiahou sighed in his heart. The Milky Way was terrifying. It could be used as the origin of their race, and they wouldn't be as timid as before. But how could time turn back? Their losses 100 years ago were still too great. After all, they had 2 supreme treasures, 2 almighty, and more than 10 divine king. Too many of their old brothers had died. Now, there were still many scattered teams that hadn't been reunited. "Child, you should go." Xiahou patted Su Yan's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Leave this place and search for your own martial path. If we are defeated, don't look back. Search for your own path of invincibility. If you can't do it, don't ever look back." Hearing this, Su Yan clenched his fists. He shook his head and said, "The race calamity. As the #1 expert of the Huaxia Alliance, how can I abandon my race and leave at this time?" "Grandpa Xiahou, don't say any more. No matter the outcome today, I will advance or retreat with my race." "Good, huh?" Xiahou laughed. "We won't necessarily lose. I don't think they have the courage. I just regret that I didn't act in time to kill the Cohen family's half-almighty." Su Yan's eyes fell on a beautiful and noble woman standing quietly not far away. Bamboo Moon also looked at Su Yan. Her bright eyes rippled with a smile, but there was also a trace of beauty. "Bamboo Moon, you should leave first." Su Yan walked up and said in a low voice, "I don't know what will happen next. This is a disaster for the burial realm. I shouldn't implicate you. Hokuto helped me a lot in the past. Now, no matter what, I can't let you be in danger." Brothers, Emperor's Way of the World has published a physical book. Find an opportunity to organize an event and send some physical books to everyone as a souvenir. Chapter 742. Zhuyu is a peerless beauty. Her silver robe made her look like a bright moon, as if she was in a dream. Her snow-white skin rippled with the moonlight. Her jet-black hair hung down her waist. Her beautiful eyes also bloomed with starlight. They were very bright and moving. When she smiled gently, her eyes were like crescent moons, moving people's hearts. She was beautiful and noble. She was already in the divine realm at such a young age. Bamboo Moon's cultivation in the past few years had also allowed her to improve rapidly. She had already begun to accumulate foundation in her realm and was pushing towards the Divine King's realm. Bamboo Moon looked at Su Yan and smiled gently. "You don't have to worry about me." "But," Su Yan frowned. He really didn't want Bamboo Moon to be in danger. After all, what they were going to face next was very tricky. Even Xiahou wasn't confident. After all, they were going to face many powerful people attacking the Milky Way. "Don't say any more." Bamboo Moon clenched her slender hands and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, there are many students in the Huaxia Alliance that I taught. Moreover, when I was severely injured back then, I escaped to Earth and formed a relationship with the Huaxia Alliance. There is an inseparable relationship between us." Su Yan took a deep breath. He looked at the beautiful and holy woman in front of him and couldn't help but ask, I've always wanted to know what kind of disaster you encountered back then, and why are you a disciple of the Big Dipper Star region? This was a mystery. Many people also wanted to know the secret behind it. After all, Bamboo Moon was a descendant of the sky bamboo. Her identity and origin were too great. To put it bluntly, Bamboo Moon was one of the most important people in the universe. However, this identity was that of a disciple of Hokuto. Hokuto was very weak back then, and this puzzled many people. I will tell you when the disaster is over. Bamboo Moon smiled. Her body was filled with moonlight and starlight, and there was a faint trace of a terrifying aura. Su Yin very keenly captured the anger emitted from Bamboo Moon, but she didn't say anything. Even with Bamboo Moon's current strength, it was difficult for her to face the danger she had encountered in the past. This was related to her strength. All right, Su Yin nodded. Then, he took out many yin-yang fish and handed them to Bamboo Moon. When Bamboo Moon saw the dozens of yin-yang fish in the space treasure that Su Yin handed over, she was frightened. She could even say that she was dumbfounded. Even someone of Bamboo Moon's status was frightened, so one could only imagine how great Su Yan's wealth was. Bamboo Moon wanted to laugh, but she couldn't because she knew very well how precious these dozens of yin-yang fish were. Even the whole of Hokuto didn't have these yin-yang fish, but Su Yin took them all out at once. Su Yin grinned, revealing his snow-white teeth, and said, I still have a lot of these things. Yin-yang fish will definitely help your body. I think it can increase your strength a lot. This is yin-yang fish. How can it not be important? Bamboo Moon tried to calm down. She shook her head gently and said, Forget it. This thing doesn't have much effect on me. Leave it for your people. I still have a lot. Su Yin said, I could survive back then because I ate a lot of yin-yang fish. A lot. How much is a lot? Bamboo Moon was stunned. She looked at Su Yin like a curious baby. At this moment, Bamboo Moon was a little cute, like an ignorant girl who could be tricked away at any time. Su Yin said a number, but Bamboo Moon didn't dare to believe what she heard. A few thousand? She was sure that Su Yin wasn't lying. Su Yin was worried that the effect wasn't enough, so he took out the strange yin-yang grass that he harvested from the yin-yang river. He felt that this thing was more precious than the yin-yang fish, but it was difficult for Su Yin to refine the yin-yang grass. This substance? Bamboo Moon was shocked. She thought that Su Yin had robbed an incomplete universe. The substance energy contained in the yin-yang grass made Bamboo Moon serious. Su Yin told her about the yin-yang road. He didn't know if Bamboo Moon knew about this force with her identity, but Bamboo Moon was also puzzled. She didn't know about this unknown and mysterious force. However, the force Su Yin described still shocked Bamboo Moon enough. How many more good things do you have? Su Yin took out some water of life and gave it to Bamboo Moon. This shocked the experienced Bamboo Moon. Moreover, this batch of resources was very important to her. It could allow her to accumulate a shocking foundation and allow her strength to advance by leaps and bounds. Su Yin spread his hands helplessly. That was all. He hoped that it would really be helpful to Bamboo Moon. She didn't hesitate at all. She found a place to cultivate. Bamboo Moon wanted to make herself stronger before the battle. Go into seclusion and refine it. Su Yin took out the water of life and gave it to Yi Yuan and Tensor. Tensor scratched his head. What great use could a dozen drops of seemingly ordinary water of life have? Su Yin didn't explain too much. Only when they cultivated and absorbed it could they understand the heaven-defying effects of the water of life. Su Yin felt that this item would be of great help even to Xiaohou. When he handed this item over to Xiaohou, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, had a glint in his eyes. His solemn eyes stared at the golden water droplets. Where did it come from? Xiaohou's voice was filled with excitement. Even the blood in his body was unstable. Grandpa Xiaohou, do you know what this substance is? Su Yin was stunned. He had looked through many ancient texts and couldn't find any clues about it. Xiaohou swallowed a few mouthfuls of cold air and said solemnly, How much more? Su Yin took out more than 10 bottles. They were all spatial treasures. Although they could hold more than 10 oceans, there were only about 300 drops of the water of life in them. You. However, these 300 drops made Xiaoho tremble. His hands trembled as he held the drops of water of life in his hands. It was as if he had obtained a treasure. Grandpa Xiaoho, is this thing especially valuable? Su Yin looked at Xiaoho in shock. What else in the world could affect Xiaoho's state of mind? He said in surprise, I know a place that has an entire lake of water of life. What did you say? An entire lake? Xiaoho's breathing was very heavy. His eyes were red and his hands were trembling. A half-step Almighty couldn't control his emotions. It was obvious how heaven-defying this water of life was. An entire lake? Xiaoho thought he had misheard. He couldn't control his emotions. After asking again and again, Su Yin nodded with certainty. This made Xiaoho clench his fists and try to control his emotions. He laughed. I never thought that our buried realm race would have such an opportunity. An entire lake. Heavens, how strong must this universe be to give birth to so many treasures? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Xiaoho wanted to go to that place and confirm whether or not it was really an entire lake. However, Su Yin bitterly smiled. The broken cauldron was with Bao Kai. It was impossible for him to step into the universe of death. However, with the broken cauldron on Bao Kai, Su Yin felt more at ease. He hoped that this broken cauldron could help Bao Kai block some disasters. Grandpa Xiaoho, what is this substance? Su Yin suspiciously asked. Can it help you? It's not just help. It has a miraculous effect, even on supreme beings. Xiaoho excitedly said, I can't say what level this substance belongs to, but its name could be said to be Cosmic Mother Liquid. Cosmic Mother Liquid? Su Yin thought for a moment. He didn't know the origin of this substance. Take this vast universe, for example. The life essence that is born here is amazing. But this kind of opportunity is too hard to find. Xiaoho smacked his lips and said, Many divine king whose lifespans are about to dry up would sometimes venture into the incomplete universe to search for Cosmic Mother Liquid. This Cosmic Mother Liquid is an energy crystallized substance born in the universe. It is very terrifying and is of great help to one's cultivation. Of course, there are strong and weak Cosmic Mother Liquids. I don't know how strong this Cosmic Mother Liquid is, because there are some special Cosmic Mother Liquids that can only be confirmed by supreme beings. Su Yan's heart trembled. He asked, I once absorbed it and unlocked some of my body's potential. Its effect is heaven-defying. Could it be that this substance can only be unearthed according to the strength of the human body? That's right. Xiao nodded and said, Even for me, this substance has heaven-defying effects. I encountered obstacles on my path to becoming a supreme being, so I couldn't break through in one go. But now, Xiaoho laughed. With the Cosmic Mother Liquid, it's different. It can help me perfect the Divine King's accumulation and carry out a second breakthrough. The success rate is very high. What? You can carry out a second breakthrough? Su Yin stood up. This was terrifying. The help it could provide to a half-step supreme being was so terrifying. It could give Xiaoho the foundation to break through to the supreme being level. But he had a whole lake under his control. Didn't that mean that Su Dalong and the others had great hopes of continuing to strengthen their foundation and break through to the supreme being level? In that case, the Universe Mother Liquid was too important to a tribe. Ha ha ha. Su Yin couldn't help but laugh. This was a timely help for the Burial Realm tribe. You must survive. There is hope for the revival of the tribe. Xiaoho's breathing became heavy. This made Su Yin understand a problem. It was no wonder that the Chaos Ruins were so attractive. It was no wonder that so many clans would fight over it, and even follow some young primes. It turned out that in such a place of fortune, there really was a heaven-defying substance that could change the fate of a tribe. No wonder the Ancestral Hall, one of the greatest reapers of the Chaos Ruins, was so strong. The opportunities in the Chaos Ruins were really heaven-defying. Just the Cosmic Mother Liquid was enough to make Xiaoho go crazy. Child, remember, the universe of the past is fundamentally different from the present. The universe of that era had many powerhouses. Just the number of supreme beings in my tribe was no less than 1,000. Xiaoho said. As time passed, The universe continued to decline, and resources were scarce. Thus, a particularly serious problem appeared. That is, there weren't many peak resources left. Only the Chaos Ruins were a place for military strategists to fight for. There were treasures that people yearned for even in their dreams. To put it bluntly, if one wanted to become stronger, they had to go to the Chaos Ruins. Xiahou hoped that Su Yin could make a name for himself in the Chaos Ruins in the future. He hoped that he could occupy some resource mystic realms or even incomplete universes and obtain resources that could reverse the decline of the tribe. Su Yin nodded. Xiaozhe wanted to go to the place that Su Yin mentioned. Could a half-step supreme being not be able to break through? Chapter 743. Xiahou was silent. He had fought with the Yin-Yang Road before, but no matter how strong Xiahou was, he couldn't break through the Yin-Yang Road. This mysterious power was filled with eeriness and the unknown. Xiahou's understanding of it was limited because this faction was too mysterious. Since ancient times, they rarely made a move and only existed in the darkness. It was puzzling. When Su Yin spoke of his encounter with the Yin-Yang Road, Xiahou was stunned. A large number of Yin-Yang fish had been controlled by them, and there was no way to calculate the exact number. Su Yin had stolen their good fortune, and because of this mysterious faction had killed their way here. However, Su Yin felt that they were targeting Bao Kai, and not Su Yin this time. When Su Yin revealed Bao Cai's identity, Xiahou was suspicious. The sovereign of the demon region, the controller of the banners of demons, had the blood of the demon region flowing in his body. You have quite a lot of experience. Xiahou didn't expect Su Yin's experience to be so colorful. However, what he couldn't understand was that Tai Bao Kai controlled the banners of demons. He frowned and said, "The banners of demons. The demon region's waters are too deep. The ancestral hall wouldn't rashly provoke the demon region, especially the banners of demons. Since ancient times, the banners of demons were the sovereign of the demon region. However, what I didn't expect was that the controller of the banners of demons is now a living being of our race. Those who obtained the banners of demons were conferred as the sovereign of the demon region. This was like a supreme decree that had been passed down from generation to generation in the realm of demons. Every generation's strongest cultivator in the realm of demons was the one who held the 10,000 demon flag. It was like a mysterious incantation that could not be broken or reversed. Therefore, Xiahou felt that the waters of the demon realm were particularly deep. Although the origin of the banners of demons in this life was somewhat bizarre, could the decrees passed down by the demon realm's supreme masters since ancient times be rewritten in this life? It was truly a mystery. Su Yin, this faction is extremely mysterious and special. Finding them is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. You must be mentally prepared. Xiahou had no solution to this situation. Su Yin really hoped that Bao Kai would fall into the hands of the demon realm. That way, there would be some hope of rescuing him. However, if he really fell into the hands of the Yin-Yang Road, the universe was so big. Where to find them would be a big problem. I hope Bao Kai can hold on. Su Yin sat cross-legged in the starry sky. He felt that he had to become a god as soon as possible. Only by stepping into this stage could he have the ability to stand on his own. Before becoming a god, Su Yin wanted to refine the little divine king pill to strengthen his combat body. He was about to bathe in chaos and become stronger. Become a god. Su Yin muttered to himself, I have to make a trip to the Chaos Ruins. I'm now standing at the peak of the Great Tao Realm and very close to becoming a god. I wonder how this calamity will end. They're coming soon. Xiahou did not waste any more time. He swallowed the universe liquid and refined it to perfect his foundation. It was good that he could do more in the upcoming calamity. Is Zhu Tian still alive? A hint of coldness flashed in Su Yan's eyes. When he recalled the little divine king pill, he thought of Zhu Tian. After killing him, Su Yan did not obtain anything. He had a question in his heart. Perhaps Zhu Tian was still alive. However, regardless of whether he was dead or not, Zhu Tian had already been defeated. Su Yan knew the combat strength of the Ancestral Hall like the back of his hand. If he could improve further, he could only rely on the little divine king pill. However, Suyin also had the recipe for this pill. Soon, Suyin also entered a state of recuperation. He prepared to rebuild his foundation and face the various calamities that Earth was about to encounter. His blood-stained combat body shone and swallowed the essence of the universe. With Su Yan's current state and his domain at the peak of the great Tao realm, as he swallowed, the essence of various galaxies in the universe passed through Su Yan's treasure body. However, with Su Yan's current foundation, it would take a long time for him to recover from this amount of absorption. The entire Milky Way seemed very quiet. The number of spectators at the edge of the Milky Way continued to increase. News also continued to spread, causing a terrifying earthquake. Everyone felt that it was hard to believe. Who would believe that an almighty from the ancestral hall had both arms chopped off? However, it really happened. Many people were even paying attention to it. The commotion in the universe was even greater. The appearance of the cosmic bridge seemed to be suppressing this storm. From this, one could see how great the influence of the cosmic bridge was. All the peak races were paying attention to the movements of the cosmic bridge. The cosmic bridge and the Tao Hall have appeared. Even Vice President Jin Yu has walked out of the chaos ruins. The peak races in the universe were in an uproar. Many experts chased after the cosmic bridge, but it was a pity that the cosmic bridge was too fast. They could not catch up at all. This made many experts sigh. The most outstanding disciples under them were puzzled as to why they were chasing after the cosmic bridge. This is an opportunity. If Vice President Jin Yu takes a fancy to you, you can directly become a disciple of the Tao Hall, an old expert said while panting. It's like reaching the heavens in a single step. The Tao Hall is a place where all the heroes of the world gather. Even the young Supremes will join. Even the Supremes will not refuse. What? Their rallying power is so great that even the Supremes will not refuse. Countless young people were shocked. Their revered Supreme figures might have chosen to join the Holy Ji Palace. What kind of power did this mysterious force belong to? People found it hard to believe. All the top families knew that once the cosmic bridge appeared, it meant that the Tao Temple was about to come into being. It wouldn't be long before they opened their doors and recruited heroes from all walks of life into the Tao Temple. This power was quite mysterious, but it had nurtured extraordinary young Supremes for generations. Moreover, this power did not exclude any race. As long as one was talented, they could enter the Tao Hall to be nurtured. However, the difficulty was extremely high. There had once been a young Overlord who had been rejected at the door. The Tao Hall's recruitment requirements were also extremely harsh. For generations, there was a saying that was widely circulated in the chaotic ruins. Ingjia of every generation will enter the Tao Hall. From this, one could see the evaluation of the Tao Hall by all the major races. Their race had a terrifying reputation in the universe, and their rallying power was shocking. Now that the cosmic bridge had appeared, how could they not be shocked? Many people chased after the cosmic bridge because they wanted to form a good relationship with Vice President Jin Yu and obtain benefits for the young people of their race. The world is going to be in chaos. The era of the young generation's rise has arrived. It's another golden era of chaos. Who will rule the rise and fall of the earth? A corner of the universe's chaos was revealed. All the major regions were surging with undercurrents. Even the races of the burial realm were showing signs of extinction. The cosmic bridge had appeared, and the terrifying giants in the chaotic ruins were ready to make trouble. All of this caused the universe to be swept up in an unprecedented storm. This was the aura of a calamity. Some people could even see giants collapsing and disintegrating. In short, this storm was too ferocious and surging toward the Milky Way. Along the way, those who followed along felt their hearts tremble. The power gathered by the two peak races was indeed terrifying, especially after they had received inside information that the two divine king of the Dark Nether race had extinguished his primordial spirit lamp. No wonder the Almighty of the Dark Nether race took action. It's unbelievable. How much power does the Burial Realm race have now? They actually killed the two divine king. Rumor has it that the Burial Realm race's nest has been found. As long as the nest is breached, the entire race will be wiped out. Without the origin of the race, and without fresh blood, even the strongest race will decline sooner or later. Now that the two races have joined forces, who can contend against them? The universe was in turmoil. The movements of the two races were quite shocking. Wherever they passed, the starfields of the universe were almost silent. Only the terrifying armies passing by made it difficult for people to breathe. The storm was coming. It was destined to be recorded in history and passed down through the ages. That night, some races left with hope, determination, and the inheritance crystals of their races. They disappeared into some starfields and traveled far away. The storm was becoming more and more spectacular. Their destination was the Milky Way. The Milky Way seemed to have sensed something. Amidst the storm that came from the depths of the universe, the Milky Way emitted a heavy aura. It made the races of the Huaxiao Alliance straighten their backs under high pressure. Buzz! In the starry sky, a resplendent figure appeared. Her graceful figure emitted the brilliance of the starry sky. She was like a goddess born from the starry sky. She was filled with boundless divine might and surged with terrifying, chaotic waves. This was Bamboo Moon Awakening. Under the nourishment of the universe's mother liquid, her aura soared by a large margin. Behind her, the sun and moon rose and fell, embracing yin and yang, lingering in the chaos, spreading an aura that suppressed the sea of stars. All kinds of resplendent moonlight and starlight emerged from her physique. She was like the master of the moon palace, the goddess of stars and moon. Her aura collided with each other, releasing blazing waves that overflowed the sky. Suyin looked at Bamboo Moon. With the help of the universe's mother liquid, her strength soared. She escaped into an extremely powerful domain, as if she had perfected her foundation. Her foundation also surged by a large margin. Bamboo Moon's eyes were still filled with shock. She couldn't imagine what kind of treasure the golden liquid that Su Yan had given her was. It actually allowed her to make up for her flaws and strengthen her foundation. Her combat power was much stronger than a few days ago. Originally, Bamboo Moon still needed several more years to accumulate. It might even take as long as 10 years. However, the universe's mother liquid and the good fortune of the Yin-Yang Road erased this period of time. Moreover, her potential had been unearthed to an extent that exceeded her expectations. Therefore, Bamboo Moon was moved. That thing was really amazing. Grandpa Xiaohou is also about to wake up. Su Yan's gaze fell on Xiaohou again. He was in seclusion, sitting cross-legged on the sun and refining the universe's mother liquid. The amount of universe's mother liquid on Su Yan was already a priceless number, but Xiaohou couldn't use up so much. More than 100 drops were enough for him to make up for some of his flaws. It would play a crucial role in the next round of breakthrough. With the passage of time, Su Yan vaguely noticed that Xiaohou's aura was becoming stronger. He was tyrannical like an existence that filled the entire Milky Way. He was continuously expanding his essence blood into the outer space. It could be said that he was becoming very strong. He was becoming stronger in the domain of the Almighty. The resources required in the process were enormous and could easily exhaust the treasury of a powerful race. However, they had previously massacred more than a dozen resource areas in the Ancestral Hall. The harvest was huge, and they could freely move resources and foundations. Su Yan also came out of seclusion and recovered to his peak state. He stood in the solar system, holding the immortal iron rod with one arm like a golden god of war guarding the heavens. They were here. That's right. Su Yan had already felt the killing intent. It came from a very, very far away place, but it indicated that they were coming and were very close to the Milky Way. This race was defeated in the end. Many people sighed. The onlookers around the Milky Way dispersed in large numbers. They were really afraid of being affected and dying tragically in this struggle for hegemony. Some people had already seen that in the depths of the universe, waves of terrifying auras were spreading and covering the vast starry sky. They were getting closer and closer to the Milky Way. If someone saw the scene of two peak races going to war, they would definitely be scared half to death. It was no less than 1,000,000 troops going to war. Wherever they passed, the starry sky trembled. This was the arrival of heavenly soldiers and generals, bringing with them killing intent and an aura of extermination. They're here. Suyin looked at the Milky Way. He could vaguely see the appearance of endless soldiers and horses. There were all kinds of terrifying lights surging towards the Milky Way. Chapter 744. How many troops did they send? Is the buried region that powerful? Some cultivators who were hiding in the distance were trembling. The commotion was too outrageous. It was as if the heavens were sending out their troops. Millions of soldiers were passing through, shaking the starry sky of the universe. The footsteps of the soldiers were in unison, and it was like the rumbling of heavenly drums and thunderclaps that were deafening. Moreover, it was accompanied by monstrous killing intent and terrifying fluctuations of blood essence that surged and stretched out, covering the heavens and the earth and filling the vast expanse of the starry sky. One had to know that this line was very long. One couldn't see the end. All the soldiers were wearing battle armor and carrying iron spears. Their killing intent soared into the sky. Their power gathered together, piercing through the heavens. It was as if a battle line that stretched for millions of miles had been pulled open. What kind of divine might was this? It was truly intimidating, enough to make 10,000 races tremble in fear. From this kind of power, one could see that the Kuan family back then wasn't much. There was still a gap between them and the peak races. Moreover, those battleships were densely packed. There were no less than 10,000 battleships. Battleships after battleships formed a group. They emitted all kinds of terrifying light, carrying all kinds of great killing weapons. It was truly frightening. To deal with the buried region, some people's voice trembled. Wasn't this a bit too much? However, some people sneered. You think too highly of the buried region. I think they didn't come for the buried region. They came to an agreement to join hands and occupy Earth. They wanted to occupy this ancient planet with endless potential. You think too little of the buried region. However, some people didn't think so. They felt that the buried region wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. They must have some hidden trump cards. They would definitely fight in this battle. It was time for the flames of their race to be extinguished. Everyone thought that the buried region's strength would be revealed in this battle. The aura of war filled the starfield. Everyone knew that the ancestral hall's 100,000 heads were flying in the sky. The losses were incomparably heavy. The Almighty's arms were broken, and Zhu Tian was killed by Su Yan. As for the Dark Nether race, 2 of their divine king were killed in the Milky Way. One was torn apart, and the other was trampled to death. This kind of humiliation made the Dark Nether race furious. They couldn't wait to tear the buried region apart. They crazily rushed toward the Milky Way. All troops on alert. Lei Lao and the others stood up. Although they knew that their own strength was not enough to make a difference on the battlefield, they wanted to join hands to face the enemy. They wanted to live and die together and share trials and tribulations together. Boom! The Milky Way galaxy trembled. The momentum that had spread from the depths of the universe finally pressed down. It was boundless, vast, and turbulent, causing the entire Milky Way galaxy to start trembling. It was a scene that was about to collapse. Outside of the Milky Way, killing intent blossomed. It was a blood-red expanse. The peerless killing intent and the power of 100,000 gods and demons combined into one filled the air with a murderous intent that could annihilate an entire race. It dyed the vast Milky Way galaxy blood-red, as if it was going to turn it into a great world with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. How terrifying! Many spectators felt a chill run down their spines from head to toe. Their skin and bones were cold, and even their souls were trembling. Under this kind of killing intent, their flesh shells were about to explode and be riddled with holes. They were going to be destroyed under great fear and buried in purgatory. However, this was only the beginning. Their troops had yet to fully descend into the world. The starry skies couldn't possibly allow so many troops to arrive. In that case, they would all arrive one after another in the next few days. Moreover, a major event had occurred. The distant starry skies trembled even more violently. Countless stars were like dumplings as they fell down uniformly with rustling sounds. The aura of an almighty from the ancestral hall emerged. He was like a supreme god of the starry skies. His arms had recovered, and his body was suffused with a furious killing intent. He wanted to incinerate the entire Milky Way galaxy. A powerful expert needed a great foundation to regrow his severed arms. To be able to recover in such a short period of time, he had definitely used divine medicines to continue the battle. This proved that the following battle was very important. The almighty expert's aura devoured a great region. His essence blood surged and pierced through the heavens. It was terrifying to the extreme. Boom! However, another aura not inferior to the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor was released. This was the ancestor of the dark underworld race. He was boundlessly terrifying. With a loud roar, the sea of stars exploded. The boundless world trembled as boundless gales swept over and rushed towards the Milky Way galaxy. Heavens, the two almighty experts have arrived. Everyone was shaken. Their souls were throbbing, and the spectators were all terrified. They wanted nothing more than to flee the battlefield and never come close to this place. The two almighty experts were floating at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Their eyes were filled with killing intent, and their bodies were surging with the light of order. This was the arrangement of the two great cosmoses, revealing a will that could make all living things submit. Dang! They issued a decree at the same time. Their words were law, and the cosmos was filled with killing intent. Boundless blood covered the sky and the sun. It seemed as if the entire Milky Way galaxy was about to shatter. Roar! The trembling Milky Way galaxy was suddenly filled with divine radiance. Xiao had awakened. He was even more powerful and ferocious than before. His essence blood flowed through the entire Milky Way galaxy, and he grasped the power of Earth. He was like a supreme god who had activated the mysterious code between heaven and Earth. As this blue planet revolved, the entire Milky Way galaxy continued to shine. In the end, a peerless killing intent was unleashed. A peerless combat strength caused even a corner of the cosmos to tremble. A peerless domain. What kind of existence arranged it? Everyone saw that the Milky Way galaxy had changed. It was as if it had transformed into an ancient immortal cauldron. Immortal splendor surged with tens of thousands of rays of light. It was as if a supreme treasure was floating here. Moreover, its might was ever-changing. In the entire Milky Way galaxy, billions of stars were arranged neatly and uniformly. It was as if heavenly soldiers were giving a sermon here. Sometimes it would transform into a cauldron, sometimes it would transform into a divine spear, sometimes it would transform into a killing sword, and sometimes it would transform into a giant bell. This kind of abnormality was truly boundlessly powerful. It released a peerless power that lay horizontally here. It was as if it had transformed into an eternal heavenly past that guarded Earth. The race of the burial region, dang. Another cold shout resounded. The two almighty experts finally began to make their moves. They possessed remarkable abilities and were omnipotent. They could move mountains and fill seas. The might of the two almighty experts rushed toward the Milky Way galaxy. This was a peerless collision that caused the world to tremble. It was equivalent to a matchless battle between two universes. Under the impact of this kind of domain, even gods and devils would have to nurse a grievance. Boom! A tsunami-like rumbling sound exploded with a loud bang. The starry seas and outer space trembled. Resplendent rays of light resembled the unsheathing of an immortal sword. The great stars of the universe exploded one after another. This was merely the aftermath of the collision. It was difficult to imagine how terrifying the power was. It was absolutely capable of strangling a heavenly deity. It completely erupted just like this. It was as if 100,000 starry seas had burst their banks at the same time. The terrifying divine might released flooded the boundless starry skies. People suspected that this kind of terrifying fluctuation could drown 10 starfields and lead to a great disaster. It would definitely lead to an end of misery and suffering. The strength of the Milky Way galaxy exceeded everyone's expectations. There existed a domain that connected the heavens and the earth. It was enough to stop the footsteps of the almighty experts. However, now that two almighty experts had appeared and joined forces to attack, they became even more powerful. In the end, they still rushed toward the Milky Way galaxy in their strongest state. They erupted with their most invincible power and produced some kind of resistance against the boundless Milky Way galaxy. Once this kind of resistance was born, the almighty experts would not be able to divert their hands and feet for a short period of time. However, at the same time, the Milky Way galaxy's domain was also in a state of suppression. In other words, the domain protecting the Milky Way galaxy would begin to lose its effectiveness in a short period of time. It was also at this time that one figure after another with terrifying auras appeared. It was a number that was enough to make people despair. The two groups had sent a total of 12 divine kings. Each of them was capable of swallowing the starry skies and dominating the world. They were looking down on the Earth lineage. They were laughing, and their laughter was cruel and cold. That was because in the entire Milky Way galaxy, only one Shao Ho could stand firm. Although he was a half-step almighty, how could 12 divine kings fear a single half-step almighty expert? This was a bloody reality. The two peak groups were too tyrannical. They had dispatched 12 divine kings. They coldly sneered. What's the point of the buried realm race persevering any longer? If you don't surrender now and welcome our return, what are you waiting for? You're the only one? What's the use? Surrender obediently, and you'll suffer less pain and suffering. Their words were full of mockery and ridicule. They stood on high and looked down on the Earth lineage with disdain. Bullsh *T. Who said my buried realm race only has one person? A soul-tearing roar exploded, threatening to shatter one's divine soul. That was a boundless, ominous aura spreading out. Two terrifying figures charged towards the Milky Way galaxy. At the same time, a dozen heavenly deities also rushed over. This was Su Dalong and Yi Ling Tian, leading their old subordinates back to their homeland. It seems that everyone is here. Do you think you're very strong? The buried realm race is already a thing of the past. A new era is about to begin. Those who block the way will be killed without mercy. The Cohen family's half-step almighty expert had arrived. His injuries had healed as he spoke coldly. Ignorant brat, is it your turn to speak here? Get lost. This daddy has already sent people to kill their way into the Cohen family's resource lands in the primal chaos ruins. News of victory will soon come from the battlefield. Prick up your dog ears and listen carefully. Don't be muddle-headed again. Suddenly, a dozen terrifying battleships rushed towards the Milky Way galaxy. The leading blood-colored battleship was suffused with a heaven-devouring aura. A figure walked out from within and tore apart the firmament. This was an old man draped in blood-colored robes. His sharp eyebrows reached his temples, and he was abnormally terrifying. There was a huge blood lion standing behind him, looking down on the common people. This was a veteran divine king, known as the Blood Lion Divine King. When he saw Xiaoho and the others, his eyes turned red. He even trembled as he looked at Earth. He couldn't control his emotions and roared with surging emotions. Unfilial descended Zhang, lead the Blood Lion mercenary group and return to our homeland. Return to our homeland and protect our race. Kill all the foreign enemies. Kill all the foreign enemies. Protect our race. The roars of the magnificent army stirred their blood energy. The dozen battleships immediately erupted with a bloody light that blotted out the sky. This was a sea of blood rushing towards the Milky Way galaxy and returning to the progenitor. Many people were dumbfounded. The Bloodline mercenary group was a famous force in the universe. They were even more terrifying than the Dark Mercenary Group. They actually belonged to the Buried Realm race. How can the Hong family be left out in protecting our race? I, Hong Tiangang, announce that I represent the Flood Source Starfield's Hong family and return to our homeland. Chapter 745. Long roars filled with excitement and love for their race. They couldn't suppress their emotions and spread throughout the entire Milky Way. Long Xian Star regions, Qing family returns. Chaos ruins by family returns. That boundless momentum was magnificent and vast, containing their fanatical feelings for their race. The back progenitor was their home, and they had finally returned. In this most difficult time, they had made the decision to risk the extinction of their race and return to the back progenitor. They wanted to do their part for their race. Even if their race was exterminated, they didn't care. They had been hiding for many years, and some of them had even concealed their identities from their ancestors. However, during this period of time, they had heard news about the ancestral star and the news that the Zanga clan was on the verge of extinction. They couldn't bear it any longer. They reorganized their race and returned to their homeland. Their ancestral blood was boiling, the battle blood of their ancestors roaring. They and the Buried Region race were an inseparable part of themselves. Now that they saw Earth and sensed a familiar aura, they couldn't help but roar. This was because there were many Earth bloodlines that were exactly the same as theirs. Those were their people, and the same blood flowed through their bodies, immortal for all eternity. Suyin didn't dare to forget the origin of the Buried Region race. That was when the immortal star collapsed. Large and small forces gathered together, and they were called the Buried Region race. It was a force formed by the convergence of many races. But after a long time, the name of this race was treated as their own. It was treated as a faith in their hearts. They protected it, loved it. It was the trend of the times, the will of the people. When their race was on the brink of extinction, they all came. They carried the will to advance and retreat with their race, to resist the enemy hand in hand. They didn't fear death as they rushed towards the Milky Way. Originally, many races thought that their bloodline was the only one still alive. But they didn't expect that so many races would return at once. It was like a dragon returning to the sea, reversing the decline of the Buried Region race in an instant. This had a great connection with the back progenitor. Once, among their ancestors, there was a powerful ancestor who was a core member. He understood the secrets of the back progenitor, but they didn't know where the back progenitor was. In the past, they had been separated and lost contact with their families. Slowly, they began to live in seclusion. After all, the Buried Region race had no foundation in the universe. It could be said that the Buried Region clan had been fragmented for a long time. Their clans were scattered all over the vast star field. However, their descendants had already grown up and even became experts who ruled over a region. Even now, they still couldn't forget the unwillingness of their elders before they died. It was because they wanted to return to their clan and see their old brothers one last time. There were also some conclave experts from the necropolis who had left behind their last words. The progenitor was the signal to summon them, and when the necropolis appeared, they would return with their entire clan. The onlookers were stunned. They could not believe the scene in front of them. There were too many races and forces rushing towards the Milky Way, and many of them were famous in the universe. However, who would have thought that they belonged to a clan from the Burial Region and were connected to them by blood? At the critical moment of their clan's survival, they had surfaced. This call of bloodline connection, the will to join hands to resist the enemy, caused the entire Milky Way to ripple with all sorts of emotions. However, without exception, their bloodlines were resonating with each other, burning and glowing. This made the younger generation of their families excited and shocked. They could really feel the connection of their bloodlines. They were even filled with the emotions of returning to their homeland for the back progenitor. This was their home, their true ancestral land. This made many of the onlookers' hair stand on end. It was hard to believe that this clan still had such rallying power. When Xiahou and the others decided to stay and fight to the end, they seemed to have expected this day to come. However, Su Dalong and the others had never imagined that so many clans and forces would come. It made them want to cry. They felt that if they died in battle, they would have no regrets. Ha ha ha! Loud laughter echoed throughout the Milky Way. Their bloodlines were connected, and they glowed and resonated at the same time. This caused the vast Milky Way to be filled with the terrifying flames of war, burning fiercely. A once terrifying clan had stood up here. The general trend of the universe would eventually add the name of the Upper Burial region to it. This clan was no longer in decline, and they were emitting all sorts of terrifying brilliance, burning fiercely here. Why are we a traitor clan? Many of the young soldiers of the Cohen family didn't dare to look directly at them. Their expressions were filled with fear because they felt their own bloodline boiling. They wanted to return to the Milky Way, and they couldn't even control their emotions. There were people who wanted to go over and become one of them because they didn't want to bear the title of traitor. The news that the Cohen family was a traitor had spread in recent years. They didn't know about it before, and this made them feel extremely humiliated. The Cohen family's patriarch's face was gloomy. He had never thought that the Upper Burial region would be able to reunite. This clan's general trend filled the entire Milky Way. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers and horses had gathered, including Yiling Tian and the others. There were 9 divine king and more than 30 heavenly deities. This was quite powerful and could definitely be called a superpower that dominated the universe. How terrifying! Could it be that the Upper Burial region is going to become a peak clan again? Why can't this clan be wiped out? How many clansmen do they have? Some people's voices were trembling. This was because they had a new ancestral land, a progenitor, and the foundation for the clan's rise. Even with their current strength, they had a great chance of becoming a peak clan. Only by understanding the past of the Upper Burial region clan did they truly understand the origins of this clan. They weren't just a simple clan, but a power formed by the immortal star to contend against the darkness. How can a peak clan be established so easily? Moreover, the Upper Burial region clan's foundation is indeed powerful, but the gap between them and the ancestral hall is still too great. Some people shook their heads. One had to know that the ancestral hall's experts were all gathered in the chaotic ruins. Moreover, many of the clan's foundations were hibernating and wouldn't come out easily. If they really did come out of seclusion, it would be terrifying. What's the point? The divine king of the dark underworld race sneered. Even if you have millions of soldiers, what can you change? Now that you've jumped out, don't you know what the outcome will be? Your courage is indeed admirable, but I have to say that this is an extremely foolish decision. Today, the Upper Burial region clan will be destroyed. Since you've come, then you'd better be prepared to be completely wiped out. At the edge of the Milky Way, a murderous aura spread out like an ocean. It surged like the sea, setting off sky-shaking waves. The strength of the 2 peak clans pressed towards the Milky Way. Countless soldiers and horses emitted a bone-piercing, cold light. In the vast starfield, murderous aura surged, shaking the heavens and earth. A boundless battlefield was about to be born. It was filled with an austere aura, so cold that it chilled people to the bone. Their minds couldn't help but tremble. Facing the boundless austere aura from all directions, the Milky Way felt as if millions of mountains were pressing down on it. However, this couldn't crush the fighting spirit of the Upper Burial region clan. It couldn't crush their backbone, and it couldn't make them yield. Then let's fight. Beat them for me. The bloodline divine king let out a loud roar. He carried a halberd with one arm, exuding the ferocious aura of a peerless overlord. He shouted angrily, "Even if our clan bleeds to the last drop of blood, we'll make you decline in this era. You want to destroy us? Ha ha! You'll have to ask the heavenly blade in my hand first." Another old divine king shouted. Hong Tian Gang carried a red heavenly blade. The boundless blade energy was tens of thousands of zhang long. It could easily shatter the stars in the sky. Protect our clan? kill all the enemies. Protect our clan, kill all the enemies. Protect our clan, kill all the enemies. In the Milky Way, the killing intent was bright to the extreme. It was so dazzling that it made one's eyes bleed. That was killing intent, the peerless killing intent of the entire clan. It was like a Milky Way dragon that soared into the sky. It represented the upper burial region, the gathering of all the clans. Their momentum swept through the sky, shaking the firmament and piercing through the heavens. Moreover, their bloodlines resonated, wanting to destroy a star field. What kind of terrifying might was this? They wanted to rush into the universe and compete with the other peak clans for supremacy. It was too unimaginable. They're stubborn. Kill them for me. Let them know what cruelty is, what the truth is, and what the extermination of a clan is. The great figures of the two peak clans roared together. They waved their hands and issued the military order. Kill. Exterminate the lower burial region clan. Tear this clan to shreds. Let them cease to exist. Let them know what the cruel truth is. Kill. Tear these people who live in a fantasy to shreds. The tigers and wolves of the two great clans instantly rushed out. It was a terrifying scene that could collapse the heavens. As soon as this confrontation began, it caused a great earthquake in the universe. The boundless starry skies were stirred up with perilous waves. When these battles collided, the spectating cultivators felt a chill from head to toe. Only now did they realize how bloody and cruel this battle would be once it erupted. With just a single exchange, the heavens seemed to have collapsed. Millions and millions of stars trembled. A terrifying and boundless killing intent gathered together, forming a whirlwind that could exterminate a star field. It rushed out in all directions. This kind of battle was too terrifying. It could easily affect star fields. The flames of war were enough to alarm over 100 star fields. Kill. From both sides, there were incomparably tyrannical war generals who charged forward. They carried great halberds and cut through the void. They carried the determination and fighting spirit to hack apart the enemy's head. They wanted the enemy to be dyed in blood. Roar. The battlefield immediately became berserk to the extreme. In this type of grand battlefield, not even the Divine King could dominate an area. When faced with this type of crazy slaughter, the Burial Region clan rushed out in groups. Several 100,000 vicious weapons burned with the flames of war. Their bloodlines resonated, and it was as if a boundless sea of blood was thrown into the battlefield, tearing apart the heavens and splitting the seas. The blood was like a vast sea that swept out. Corpses and bones danced about chaotically like the ruins of an enormous city. The entire world seemed to have become the color of blood. Millions of vicious weapons were fighting, corpses piled up like mountains, forming a bloody, starry sky. It rested in a corner of the universe, shaking heaven and earth. Kill! Su Yin roared, his pupils widening. He released the most powerful potential, the most berserk battle intent. It resonated with the immortal Iron Staff, possessing unmatched battle strength. He was especially powerful and intimidating, even taller than gods and devils. He instantly attacked, his bravery unstoppable. A long river of blood that was 100 li long appeared in the void. When the immortal Iron Staff smashed forward, large amounts of enemy troops were blasted into a bloody mist. Recently, I've been renovating my house, often leaving early in the morning and only coming back at noon. The brothers who have renovated their houses all understand that it takes several months. Chapter 746. A corner of the battlefield blossomed with the light of blood. Su Yin seemed to be pushing through dry weeds as he slaughtered his way through. Corpses danced in the air. Although this was a very small battlefield in the vast battlefield, the foul wind and rain of blood still caused the expressions of the highly strung warriors of the burial realm to change. Who's so valiant? They were quite shocked. Just now, they had clearly sensed an abnormally ferocious power piercing through space. It was unstoppable, smashing a large number of soldiers to death. Even a charging figure was quite valiant. He had already charged in the battlefield filled with the stench of blood. He held an immortal iron staff and began a massacre, looking down on everyone. It's him. It's Su Yin. Suddenly, many young people shouted excitedly. Did you see that? He's the strongest of the younger generation of the burial realm. He even killed the son of the ancestral hall's ancestor. What? He's Su Yin, the madman Su who killed the son of an almighty expert. When I learned of this matter, I found it unbelievable that such a man had come out of the burial realm. The small battlefield was in an uproar. Many people's eyes were fanatical as they watched the extremely valiant figure slaughter his way into the battlefield. Su Yan's movements were too fast. He reaped lives on the battlefield. So what if a deity expert came? He could crush them with a single punch. How terrifying. He's the young paragon of our race, a legendary figure in the universe. He's even killed a heavenly god before. He's even stronger than before. Ha ha ha. Su Yin, what a good Su Yin. As expected of the rising star of the burial realm, he killed the son of an almighty expert just like that. Good. Su Yan's ferocious might inspired everyone on the battlefield. Of course, that wasn't all. The Huaxia clans were showing signs of rising, but now they also had a young king who could dominate a battlefield. Yi Yuan was now extremely powerful. He was the martial arts god of war, and it was as if there were many war gods behind him. His body was bursting with divine light, suppressing a corner of the battlefield. His silver force armor was activated, and he was ferocious. There was no doubt that Yi Yuan and Tensor had become even more powerful. After receiving the nourishment of the Cosmic Mother liquid, their battle prowess had risen to a whole new level. They were peerless generals on the battlefield, and in any starfield, they were young gods of war who could look down upon the starry skies with disdain. However, no matter how strong they were on this battlefield, they could only stir up some waves. What a terrifying battle. Is this the strongest expedition that has happened in this universe era? Even the Divine King is putting his life on the line. Human lives are like grass. How long can the Zhangu clan last in a direct confrontation with a million vicious weapons? The spectators were trembling. The aftershock of the collision was like numerous strands of eternal sword chi that swept through the boundless expanse and slashed apart numerous stars in the universe. And it shook them to the point their souls were trembling. On this kind of battlefield, the smell of blood was like an ocean, surging without end. The vast starry skies were dyed red with blood. Corpses covered the skies, and a bloody radiance rose up, illuminating the entire world with a blood-red hue. Kill! War cries shook the heavens and earth. In such a grand and desperate battlefield, even heavenly deities seemed small and insignificant. On the battlefield, numerous figures were exchanging blows, fiercely killing each other. The sea of stars was shaking, emitting all sorts of bitter, killing intent. Many people were roaring, revealing an iron-blooded, tyrannical aura. I want to see how long you can last. The two peak clans emitted a murderous intent to slaughter all living things. Many great figures felt that victory was within their grasp, because their side still had an endless stream of troops charging into the battlefield. Even in the next 10 days to half a month, even more troops would come to kill their way. Protect my race and kill all enemies. Furious voices, containing a will that didn't fear death and a conviction to crush the enemy. The war between their races had already continued for an endless amount of time, but the result had always been the buried region race fleeing in all directions, losing contact with their clansmen. This was because they had lost their ancestral land. In the endless era, their races had been scattered, unable to find a path to gather together. Every once in a while, there would be news of a buried region race's land being destroyed, and news of a certain expert being killed would spread. This was humiliation and grief. They were like stragglers who had lost contact with each other, scattered throughout the great regions of the universe. In the end, the day they had been waiting for arrived. The progenitor would reappear in this world, and the buried region race's second ancestral land would emerge. They had previously lost their ancestral land, And if they lost their second ancestral land as well, then what hope did the buried region race have of rising up again? Talking about revenge was just a fool's dream. Now that they had gathered, their bloodlines resonating, illuminating the heavens. The anger of gods and devils pervaded the air, and they released the will to protect their race. They didn't want to hide, nor did they want to shoulder the blood debt of their ancestors. They wanted to stand out and fight, respond to the two great races with their strength. Kill. The battle was especially intense. Blood dyed the heavens, and gods and devils danced chaotically. This battle was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. Even the Divine King was going to nurse a grievance. On the grand battlefield, no one had any misgivings about the life or death of their comrades. Many people's eyes were red from the slaughter, and they released a crazy amount of power to contribute to their race. Oh, a loud roar split the heavens. The blood-colored Divine King was released, and it was as if he was a blood-colored lion rushing over from history. The Blood Lion Divine King's terrifying power shocked the world, and his attacks caused the entire Kunkang region to tremble. He staggered backwards, and he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. Traitorous brat, hand over your life. The Blood Lion Divine King emitted a berserk battle intent. He was extremely valiant, and no longer remained dormant. His bloodline's strength had awakened, and he was like a great blood-colored demon king. His fighting strength wasn't inferior to Su Dalong's group, and he could definitely be called the most powerful divine king. Pung pung pung. Several heavenly deities around Kuan Tianyu exploded, and they prostrated themselves beneath the Blood Lion Divine King's feet. This made Kuan Tianyu roar continuously in anger. He had suffered a crushing defeat, and he was completely crippled. The Kuan family's people were in an extremely miserable state. After all, they were traitorous clans, and the burial region hated the Kuan family even more than the ancestral hall and underworld race. The Kuan family's old ancestor couldn't contend against the current Xiahou at all. No matter how strong the Kuan family's old ancestor was, he was still suppressed greatly by Xiahou. Xiahou was like a supreme demon king who had crossed over into the realm of supreme experts, and he had gone berserk while bathed in divine blood. Pooh, that Zhu Cheng was extremely terrifying and tyrannical. He had accumulated enough strength to break through into the realm of supreme experts. The old divine king was seriously injured by him. He released a cold shout, and he swept through the army, massacring all the nearby experts. Zhu Cheng's expression sunk, and his sharp eyes suddenly fell on a corner of the battlefield. That corner of the battlefield drew everyone's attention. Everyone was staring at a figure bathed in divine blood. He was slaughtering in all directions, sweeping through experts from all sides, truly slaughtering the enemies until they trembled in fear. This was unmatched strength, and anyone who came into contact with him would die. Su Yan's eyes were red from slaughter, and his pupils reflected bloody radiance. His body surged with world-shocking power, and with the immortal iron staff in hand, he smashed a divine expert until he exploded. Well killed. Many soldiers were shaken and stirred up. How old was Su Yan? A divine expert was blasted apart with a single staff strike. This truly left them shaken. With this kind of fierce general present, it was enough to sweep through an area, and it provided quite a bit of help to the greater situation. Bastard! Zhu Cheng closed in on Su Yan. He was also like a blood-colored overlord, wishing to hunt down Su Yan. However, unfortunately, Zhu Cheng was blocked by the heavily injured old Divine King. He released a crazy laugh. The glorious Divine King actually hunted down my clan's young supreme expert. Truly laughable. Who in your clan dares to fight against my clan's young supreme expert one-on-one? Impudent. Zhu Cheng was shocked and furious. Cold lightning shot out from his eyes as he instantly issued a battle order. Men, suppress Su Yan and bring him away. Zhu Cheng was a leading expert, and his orders were as heavy as a mountain. It also represented the collapse of mountains and the splitting of seas. Su Yan, he's actually still alive. Groups of experts went crazy, and their eyes turned red. This was especially true for the experts of the Dark Underworld race. They learned that one of the Divine King's experts had been torn apart by Su Yin. They swept through the battlefield, all of them rushing over with no regard for their own lives. They were heavenly gods. Swathes of deity realm experts had gathered together and unleashed their furious killing intent. They wanted to suppress Su Yin and wipe away their previous humiliation. Suppress Su Yin. Tens of millions of armored cavalry galloped and whistled. A storm gathered as they passed through the battlefield, charging towards Su Yin. In a short period of time, the charging force they had gathered was difficult to resist. Large groups of soldiers from the burial realm were sent flying. They roared with red eyes, issuing warnings. Su Yin, run. Retreat to the rear for now. Don't fight them head-on. Many old soldiers cried out in alarm as they charged towards Su Yin. Now, the experts of the Ancestral Hall and the Dark Underworld race were charging madly, without any regard for the consequences. All kinds of great killing weapons were brought out, and a storm of divine energy was born. They carried peerless boldness and wanted to suppress Su Yin on the spot. Come if you're not afraid of death. In the face of this iron-blooded suppression, Su Yin let out a wild roar amidst the darkness and blood. His hair danced wildly, and his essence blood rushed into the heavens. Even if the sky collapsed in front of him, he wouldn't bat an eyelid. That kind of surging battle intent, that kind of peerless attitude, that kind of tyrannical, ferocious might cause the world to explode. The sky was filled with corpses and blood, and it began to bloom. At this moment, Su Yin's majestic appearance was world-shocking. He was truly like a heavenly deity erupting. Moreover, his hands held the immortal iron staff. When he waved it, it was as if 100,000 true dragons had left the cage and surged towards the incoming flood of iron and blood. Kill! Su Yin roared. His eyes overflowed with killing intent, shaking the enemy's souls. Strands of exceptionally terrifying aura awakened. The immortal iron staff shone, and the battle force was unstoppable. It was as if the phantom that had once smashed the 9 heavens and 10 earths had appeared. It wanted to crush the boundless starry skies and collapse the entire battlefield. How long? The universe exploded like a clap of thunder. It was ear-splitting and tore apart many people's eardrums. That is, everyone present trembled. The darkness and blood had exploded. Su Yin was like a demon god from hell. His rod had pierced thousands of holes in the heavens and the earth. Endless light was released. Accompanied by the fighting power, the bombardment caused the torrent to collapse. Groups of experts exploded. Even heavenly deities were no exception. Their bodies were blasted apart by a single staff. Boundless vicious energy rippled through the battlefield just like that. It was accompanied by blood and miserable cries, attacking until the tens of thousands of enemies were terrified, fleeing in panic. That was a world-shocking figure that appeared in the blood-colored battlefield, tearing apart the iron and blood suppression. Moreover, he stuck close to the blood-colored starry skies as he charged forward. Su Yin's head of long hair scattered down, the essence energy within his body burning like an undying divine furnace. His moves were large and powerful, suppressing forward. Who dares receive a fist from me? In this world where a rain of blood scattered down, Su Yin punched the heavens. He erupted while bathed in blood, his bravery unstoppable. Chapter 747. Su Yin was too valiant. The immortal iron staff was extremely helpful to him. It allowed him to obtain a source of power that was enough to blow apart heavenly deities, allow him to run amok on the battlefield. The domain of heavenly deities was extremely important to a group of races. They could be considered the pillars of their race. After all, this group of people might be able to produce a divine king in the future. But now, Su Yin was actually killing heavenly deities. That immortal iron staff smashed apart the iron blood suppression, sweeping through 1,000 army, full of the most domineering power, striking the experts that were pouncing over until they screamed miserably in despair. A large number of fighting soldiers' bodies exploded. Under Su Yan's exceptional sharpness, they couldn't survive at all. Even if they were brushed by the immortal iron staff, they still suffered an intense, tearing pain, their bodies flying out as they were shattered. In the vast battlefield, Su Yan truly reached the point where he could look down on everything in the domain of who could contend against him. Heavens, hurry and leave. The gods and devils were all trembling because Su Yan rushed into the battlefield, his entire body surging with vicious energy. His head of blood-dyed hair danced about chaotically, his tyrannical bearing revealing 10,000 streaks of light. That fist was truly iron blood, even more terrifying than the great stars of the universe, rushing over just like that. Kill! Su Yan roared loudly, his valiance exceptional, shattering the enemy's courage, dominating the heavens. A large number of cultivators exploded. Many of those that were sent flying by the immortal iron staff were blasted into bloody mist by Su Yan's fist wind. This was a tragic ending where their bodies and souls were wiped out. His move erupted, shocking everyone, killing until even the heavenly deities were horrified. His blood-dyed figure was like a god or devil that rushed out from hell, overlooking all living things. How is this possible? Many spectators were frightened, their legs going soft. They all felt like they were seeing things. Was this still the Su Yan of the past? Right now, he could even blast apart heavenly deities, blast through divine realm experts with a single fist. Just how powerful was this person? Exactly what domain was he standing in? There were some whose eyes were extremely sinister, feeling that the immortal iron staff Su Yan grasped was definitely not ordinary. This was an unmatched, vicious weapon. Even though it was damaged, it suppressed heavenly deities to the point where they couldn't even summon the courage to fight him. Ha ha ha! The old divine king who was blocking Zhu Cheng faced the sky and laughed loudly. Delightful, delightful, too delightful. In one corner of the battlefield, a great victory was announced. The ancestral war orders had been passed down, and the Buried Realm clan had won a complete and total victory. Madman Su's ferocious reputation was even greater than before. He was a god of war who killed his way to the top, overlooking the battlefield with disdain. Our race, with this kind of Ingjia, our rise. It was like a shot in the arm, stirring the hearts of many experts of the burial region. They saw more hope now. In the future, Su Yan would definitely be able to compete with the Supremes. That day wouldn't be too far away. Kill him. This of immortals of course, after all, of the two of, to ancestral dark. Of course, the experts of dark of the dark of the other of the dark experts of dark Yan. How could they tolerate Su Yan's rampage on a battlefield? Immediately, some of the divine kings wanted to kill their way over and suppress him. However, Yiling Tian and the others weren't just there to sit around and do nothing. They stood in front of the strongest and blocked off the divine king's experts, forbidding them from getting involved in the internal battle. However, how could they allow Su Yan to reap the harvest? It was as if he was harvesting wheat, slaughtering in all directions. Now, in this battlefield where the tide had turned, heroes had gathered and followed Su Yan's charge. With a peerless general leading the charge, this battle group was brave and unrivaled. They swept through the battlefield, bringing about a reign of terror and causing a great earthquake to erupt on the battlefield. Su Yan's name was too infamous. Who didn't know how terrifying he was? Even the elites of the Ancestral Hall and the Dark Nether race were terrified when they saw him. Even if they tried their best, they wouldn't be able to exert much of their strength. Just as Su Yan was about to unleash his massacre, his expression suddenly changed. He felt as if he was being locked down by a terrifying aura. Even his powerful body felt like it was about to shatter. Bastard! The battlefield trembled as the Divine King's power filled the entire battlefield. Some Divine Kings had sneaked in and evaded the Divine King's blockade. They had entered the battlefield and were targeting Su Yan. It was obvious that the Divine King had just arrived. He had targeted Su Yan the moment he appeared and was ready to hunt him down. Su Yan, run! Dozens of experts were seething with anger. They joined forces and charged toward the area where the explosion was about to erupt. This was the Divine King's killing move. It was about to explode this space and suppress Su Yin. Su Yan's eyes were wide with anger. His blood-stained hair danced in the wind. Those were his clansmen. He didn't even know their names. In fact, he didn't even know Su Yin. But now, in order to buy some time for Su Yin to retreat, they didn't hesitate and charged toward the Divine King, who was secretly attacking Su Yin. Bang! They all exploded. The Divine King's might was unstoppable. It was like an ocean overturning and filling the blood-stained starry sky. It was filled with the power to slay gods and destroy Buddhas. It crushed the starry sky and caused it to shatter into pieces. Bastard, I'll kill you. Su Yan's pupils narrowed. He didn't retreat under the horrified gazes of the people around him. Instead, he charged forward and smashed the Divine King with his immortal iron staff. You're courting death. The Divine King of the Dark Nether race was enraged. He was a dignified Divine King, but he was just an ant in his eyes. How audacious of him to attack him just because of his sex treasure. The Divine King's palm struck down and formed a seal. It was boundlessly powerful and caused the immortal iron staff to vibrate. The web between Su Yan's thumb and forefinger cracked. The immortal iron staff almost left his hand. The Divine King's power was even about to tear Su Yin to pieces. Whoosh, whoosh. In that instant, everyone focused on Su Yin. Even the Divine King was immersed in the joy of suppressing Su Yin. The shattered starry sky was suddenly shrouded in darkness. The Divine King's bodyguard came out and took out a Great Tao Immortal Pearl. It was as if he had taken out a condensed Great Tao universe. It spewed with the light of order and surged with the majestic might of the Great Tao. A mighty divine weapon. The Divine King's expression changed drastically. The Divine King's bodyguard came out too suddenly and took out the Great Tao Immortal Pearl. His power was even concentrated on Su Yin. As the price, Su Yan's Divine King armor exploded. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and staggered. But the Divine King's fate was even worse. He was temporarily imprisoned by the Great Tao Immortal Pearl. The Divine King's bodyguard punched the Divine King of the Dark Underworld race, causing him to howl in pain. His entire back was pierced through, and his abdomen was in excruciating pain. This was a Divine King who had been severely injured. Of course, no one expected that Su Yin would have a Divine King secretly protecting him. Kill him. Skin him alive. The moment the godly monarch was severely injured, furious combat soldiers rushed out from all directions. They had never imagined that the godly monarch would be so thick-skinned as to sneak an attack on Su Yin, a cultivator in the Great Tao realm domain. This Divine King was truly pitiful. All his bones were broken, and blood was flowing from his mouth and nose. It was a group attack, with the Divine King's bodyguard holding the line and the Great Tao Immortal Pearl. Su Yin had nothing to fear as long as it wasn't a top existence among the Divine King. But what made him sad was the group of experts who had rushed into the Divine King. Su Yin rushed into the battlefield and started fighting with the Divine King, who was struggling on the brink of death. Just like that, the battlefield was destroyed one after another. It was beyond recognition. Some people saw Su Yin remove one of the Divine King's arms. Some saw the Divine King's bodyguard crush one of his thighs. Some saw someone use a battle spear to pierce through the Divine King's chest. In short, this Divine King was too pitiful. He almost cried and was so depressed that he wanted to spit out blood. Why did he take the initiative to sneak attack Su Yin? Now, not only did he lose his life on the battlefield, but someone was drinking his Divine King's precious blood. In the end, this Divine King exploded into a bloody mist. The spectators from afar were in disbelief. They had actually killed the Divine King. It was equivalent to a giant on the battlefield falling. It was shocking. Trash. On the vast battlefield, the smell of blood filled the sky. One Divine King after another emitted killing intent. Zhu Cheng and the others were furious, and the battle became even more intense. They all wanted to rush over and kill Su Yin directly. I really don't know how long this battle will last. Many people murmured. The killing on a battlefield was still increasing, and the number of dead was already hard to count. Many famous experts had fallen in pools of blood. If this kind of battle continued, it would really cause the extinction of races. But some people could see that even if the two peak races destroyed them, they would have to pay the price in blood. What was even more unexpected was that even when the battlefield had entered a state of frenzy, there were still some forces that arrived in succession and rushed into the battlefield. These were the members of the Buried Realm clan, who were now leading their people back to the ancestral planet. The spectators turned pale. This race that was once scattered still possessed a terrifying rallying power. The Ancestral Hall and the Dark Underworld race want to destroy them too much. Their side is also continuously sending large armies into the Milky Way. Many people sighed. The battlefield was expanding, and the number of soldiers fighting was also increasing. There was no doubt that the battlefield would continue to expand for a period of time in the future. It was really hard to say how far it would progress. The number of experts watching the battle continued to increase. Finally, the experts of the peak races arrived. When they saw the battlefield, their scalps went numb. They even trembled and said, "What is the Buried Realm trying to do? Fight to the death? Do they want to re-establish the ancestral court and gather the race's fortune?" They didn't know the importance of the progenitor to the Buried Realm race. And the Buried Realm couldn't afford to lose. If they lost, they would lose the place where they could rise again. Then, they would be scattered once more and enter a vicious cycle. What could the Buried Realm use to rise again? Kill. Day after day, the sea of blood drifted. 3 divine king had fallen. One could imagine how tragic it was. But the expedition was still going on, and the battle was still going on. Some people were wondering when the Almighty would break free. After all, once the Milky Way was breached, the Buried Realm race wouldn't be far from extinction. The universe continued to boil. The universe bridge manifested, and the experts of various forces chased after it. They were about to reach the Milky Way. However, after they left, the boundless aura of the chaos ruins that even Deputy Dean Jinyu was afraid of spread out again. It was like a terrifying leader sitting cross-legged in the chaos ruins, overlooking the universe. For a moment, the people of the nearby star systems were trembling. They felt a chill run down their spines from head to toe. They had a premonition that the wisp of aura was passing through the primal chaos, crossing over vast regions and heading towards the cosmos. What kind of existence is that? It actually makes me feel fear. In ancient cities, famous mountains, great rivers, and secret realms of the universe, some old antiques who had been sleeping for many years walked out. They were all old divine king or half-step almighties who were reaching the end of their lifespans. At this moment, their hearts trembled. They felt that they were being looked down at by a terrifying creature.